Hello, welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host Neil Magnuson, and we're here to talk about truth, hope, and change as it is in respect to cannabis and all things to do with THC. On the show today, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from Canamatch.ca. We're going to talk a little bit about the CSP with what's new with that. There are new things happening there, and we're going to talk about Cannabis Day because that's coming up real soon as well. As we talked about last week, we considered that the final episode of our second season, and this would then be the beginning of our third season, and in our quest for a low barrier access community cannabis store. That is something that is needed in this world. It's something that legalization should have made sure happened, but it's also something that we don't have happening yet, and we're not going to be done until we have that. The legalization that we've been given here in Canada is a farce. It is a protection racket for corporate interests and corporate greed. It is a continuation of the prohibitions that have been happening to do with cannabis and regular people for a very long time. Sure, the average person can have cannabis on their possession and not worry about getting arrested for that, and that is great, that is wonderful. But to get that cannabis, they either have to try to grow it themselves, if in their province they're allowed to grow no more than 4 plants according to the federal government. In a couple provinces they can't grow anything, or you need to have somebody else that'll grow it and then provide it for you for free. But there is no legalization that involves all of the growers and all of the suppliers that were involved before legalization. Those people are still pretty much all just criminals like they were before. The enforcement dollars have been increased. The penalties for people have been increased. So prohibition for everybody but those that have been lucky enough to get included in the Trudeau cartel is just continuing, and it's horrible, because cannabis is this really wonderful plant that should never have been prohibited in the first place. There was never any justification for prohibiting cannabis. There was a bunch of made-up lies, stories that ran in the newspapers, especially the ones run by William Randolph Hearst, who was on a big campaign to demonize cannabis for his own personal financial interests and because of his own personal vendetta against the Mexicans who had seized what he considered to be his property. And so the reefer madness, the lies, and all of that happened, 100 years ago and counting now, were just that. They were just a bunch of lies made up. I mean, if you're going to tell a lie, the people that know how to lie, they know that the bigger the lie, the better. And so they told the biggest lie that they could about what is absolutely the best humans plant on the planet, the best plant on the planet for humans in so many different ways. Cannabis is fabrics, it's fuel, it's medicine, it's food. It's a whole bunch of really amazing things that nature has provided us within this one plant. And humans have been accessing all of those wonderful things through this plant for millennia, for thousands of years. And yet, just in the last 100 years or so, there was a concerted effort amongst those that had competing products and an agenda of control to prohibit cannabis, to demonize it, to lie about it, to say that it was this horrible, horrible new drug coming up from Mexico, driving people completely insane. And that was all insane, because the average North American didn't know the history of cannabis. They hadn't had that information to them. Cannabis was something that was in the society for all the time that North America was a colonized place. I'm not sure what was going on with cannabis before colonization, but with colonization came cannabis. It was brought with Christopher Columbus on his ships. It became one of the mandatory things that a person had to do to be awarded land from the federal government in the United States when they were starting to form. So cannabis has been around us for a very, very long time, but it has been only illegal for about 100 years or so. It was, I guess, the early 1900s in the border states bordering Mexico, where there was first some effort to try to use it as a tool to put down the migrants that were there. And then it went federal in the mid-30s with the Cannabis Tax Act, where you were supposed to get a stamp that you paid money for from the federal government before you could put in your cannabis crop. And farmers had been growing cannabis, like I say, it was a mandatory crop in the United States since the early days. And so that everybody was growing cannabis. There was large industrial fields of cannabis. There was also small hobby farms. And anybody that had any domesticated livestock was also growing cannabis because it was one of the main staple food sources for that livestock. You could make hemp seed cakes that you would take the seeds from cannabis. The cannabis plant is very prolific in producing tens of thousands to millions of seeds. And you would just put some of those into a galvanized bucket and crush them with a stick and get the oil released from the seeds, and then leave it in the hot sun for a couple of days, and it would turn into this compact hemp seed cake that you could then store in your barn and feed to your livestock. And also, you were using cannabis as a farmer for all kinds of different other food sources and fiber sources as well. So it was all around us. It was certainly well used. But when they started saying that there was this new drug called marijuana, and it was coming up from Mexico, driving people completely insane, nobody knew what that was. They didn't realize that that's what that was. When the American Medical Association, through one of their doctors, was trying to point that out to the congressional hearing in the United States, that cannabis had been used in the pharmacopoeia for a very long time. They were very concerned that they were going to be eliminating that from the pharmacopoeia. But the government said, oh, don't worry about that. And in fact, the government controlled by the Rockefellers, in a partnership with Bayer Pharmaceutical, had developed patentable pills and ways of synthesizing what the plants were doing for us in the way of medical herbs. And they said, oh, don't worry about that. We got you covered. This is the age of modern medicine, and we have standardized dosages and pills for all the things that we were using cannabis for. So they went away, and cannabis became a regulated substance, soon to find itself into it's a Schedule 1 substance in the United States. It was, from that point on, demonized harshly to protect the interests of the Rockefellers. Like I say, all these stories that were written by William Randolph Hearst, every time there was something violent that happened, he would write a story about how the perpetrator had imbibed in some cannabis before going crazy and raping and murdering and all the rest of it. And it didn't take long before the North American public was convinced that this crazy drug marijuana was worth spending a whole bunch of our tax dollars on, to make sure that nobody would be able to grow it and sell it and get it into the hands of the young people who would then go insane and kill everybody. Took a long time to unravel that. It wasn't up until the 60s when there was an obvious large amount of people using cannabis, consuming cannabis. And I suppose it was getting obvious that there really wasn't the same level of problems being caused by cannabis as what the government said that there was. And so that they spent a bunch more money and had some commissions look into it. There was the Schaefer report that came out of the United States. We had the Ledane Commission put together here, millions of dollars spent over a couple of years to figure out, what was the ins and outs of cannabis. And both of those determined that there was no justification for criminal penalties against people that were involved with cannabis, that it was really a medicinal herb. It had some side effects of making people sleepy or hungry or laughing or those sorts of things, but there was no justification for using the criminal law. But it still didn't stop. And the reason it didn't stop is because of corruption, greed, large amounts of money that were being gleaned by people involved in producing cannabis and providing it to other people, but also involved in the prohibition of cannabis. So a large amount of tax dollars going into the pockets of law enforcement, people running cages, courts were getting a lot of money to do with it. I mean, most of the cases that were coming before the courts were to do with cannabis, drug offenses, both in Canada and the United States. And still, the number one interdiction that happens between citizens and the RCMP in Canada is to do with cannabis. And There's 50,000 arrests happening on a yearly basis. That's still continuing. So prohibition hasn't gone away. Legalization did not make it legal in the way that we had been fighting for. It won't be legal properly until there's no penalties to do with anything to do with cannabis. You can't be penalizing people for growing a medicinal herb. I mean, who would have the right to penalize anybody for that? And why would you penalize them for that? It's a medicinal herb. We can't get enough of it. There's people wanting it all over the place that can't get enough of it. The stores are doing well, even though that legalization is not for most cannabis consumers, but they're still selling a fair bit of cannabis. There's still a huge demand for cannabis. The unregulated green market is still thriving like crazy. You can see it here in Vancouver. They closed down one of the dispensaries on the downtown east side, and up popped a whole bunch of people sitting on the sidewalk with bowls of cannabis and bags of cannabis, offering it for sale to everybody. So there's a huge demand. There's a huge demand for the non-cartel weed, and that's driving more and more of this prohibition that's continuing to get people arrested, continuing to have armed police officers in gangs breaking into people's houses, seizing their properties and their monies and their plants, and preventing access to the people that really need it. Legalization in the form that Trudeau put together means that rich people can afford to go into a store and buy cannabis. The rest of us that don't want to go into a store still have to pay high underground prices for cannabis, although not as high as the government stores. That would be ludicrous, holy smokes. But it's out of reach for a lot of people. On the street here, it's $10 a gram still for most of the people that have set up to fill the gap that the Blue Door has left. And although the Blue Door was selling most of their stuff at a cap of $7 a gram. So the efforts by the government are simply to restrict access to the people that need it the most. With the cannabis community of activists working to get legalization, we realized early on that the ones that needed protecting the most were the ones that couldn't stand up and speak for themselves, the ones that needed it every day, the ones whose very life was depending on it. We protected the medical users first. We set up medical dispensaries all over the place. We took the government to court to force them to provide access to people for cannabis for medical purposes. We looked after the sick people first because that's the right thing to do. They're the ones who were the most in need. They're the ones who are mostly suffering because of prohibition. But the government, in deciding to legalize, they didn't decide to end prohibition. That's not what they did. That's what we were demanding, end prohibition. They didn't end prohibition. The prohibition on anybody that isn't part of the Trudeau cartel, that can't come up with the money or get lucky enough to get a license, they're still prohibited from growing cannabis in any way, shape, or form, other than their 4 plants. But all those people that had been supplying the marketplace with cannabis before the cartel tried to take over, well, they're not going to quit growing. Why would they quit growing? Because now they're illegal for growing? They were illegal before they were growing. They've got supply systems in place. They've got people that are wanting what they're growing. Why would they stop doing that? They wouldn't. So all that does is leave a whole bunch of fish in a barrel for the prohibitionists to shoot. A whole bunch more people that can get arrested, that can, pay the mortgages of the police officers and the cage people and, all these other groups that are making money off of prohibition. They get to continue to make money with legalization. How the hell does that make any sense? And why would we do that? What the hell would you penalize somebody for because they're growing plants that other people want? It's commerce. Is this not a free country? Do we not have public servants to protect our freedoms? Where are they? Oh, they're the ones who are actually taking our freedoms away. They're the ones who are behind all of this. This is mixed up as can be. This can't be happening, can it? Millions of people in Canada can't be putting up with governments that are no longer serving the public, but are instead serving corporate greed and themselves involved in harming Canadians for profit. This can't be happening. We can't let this happen. We got to do something about this. I figured it out and decided this is what I'm going to do about it. try to legalize cannabis, because that's the lead example of how we're not free here. Hey, kitty, you want to come up? He doesn't like coming up. If you're not free to grow as many cannabis plants as you want, to ingest it in whatever way you see fit, if you're not free to access nature in a harmless way that you think helps you, then you're certainly not free. That's like being a baby with parents who don't think sugar's a good idea and they take that candy away from the baby. Except it's not like that. Because cannabis isn't candy that's not good for you. Cannabis is this amazing plant that is going to help people in a variety of different ways, even if it's just going to help them to have fun. But it's way more than that. Human beings have all kinds of problems that they deal with all the time, especially as you get older. There's lots of stress. Living in a world where you can't even use cannabis without worrying about some cop arresting you. I mean, that's stress. That's what I lived with most of my life. I can't seem to get over that. I still feel like there's a cop going to come and give me a hard time anytime I'm driving down the road because I might have some cannabis in my car. And in fact, in driving, you have to be careful about cannabis in your car. If you're going to have it there, it's supposed to be in some sort of, like, in your trunk or something, so nobody can get access to it. I'm not sure what that's all about. So you mean to say a passenger can't smoke weed? Like, who are these people? I've been smoking weed my whole life, driving over 1 million miles. I'm a better driver when I'm using cannabis. Where's the government figuring that out? I'm not alone in that. There's a lot of people tell me the same thing. For some people, they find it impairs them, and they don't drive when they're impaired by cannabis. Good for them. You shouldn't drive if you're impaired. I wouldn't drive if I was impaired. But with the pain issues that I have that somewhat impair me, using cannabis to distract from those pain issues and allow me to focus properly on driving makes me a better driver. I know it does, 100%. You can test me. I'd gladly have the government come and test my driving skills. I've had lots of cops pull me over and say, wow, sure smells like weed in your car there. I've had a lot of them make me do sobriety tests, but not too many. That was mostly on the Freedom Tour trip across Canada, where they seemed to be telling each other they should make this guy do a sobriety test. But I passed them all. But mostly I passed the test just by talking to them. They come to the car, we have a conversation. You know, is there a problem with my driving? Why did you pull me over? This is what I'm doing. This is what I think about the laws to do with cannabis. I try to talk every cop I find into understanding the truth about cannabis so that they, make their own better choices about it than the government's telling them to make. But never had an impaired charge due to cannabis or anything else, for that matter. I stopped drinking when I turned old enough to drink, but I could have had some impaired charges before I was 19. Not very smart. Don't do that. Taking other people's lives in your own hands is not an ethical thing to do. You should not do that, and many people have found out the hard way that you shouldn't do that, so don't do that. But by 19, I quit drinking, and just continued smoking cannabis. And I've smoked cannabis every time I've driven anywhere. When I did my freedom tours across Canada, for example, driving 8 hours a day, every hour got to smoke another joint, or the pain starts to overwhelm a little bit, and, better off to have a joint. It's 4:19. This is good. Get a little break from me yapping on about the same things you hear every week. Oh, yeah, so 4:20 is coming right up, and I love that time of the day. I love that date of the year. It's become very special to me and many other people. But that moment at 4:20 where you think about having a puff is usually right when you need it. By about 4:20 in the afternoon, you've had a day, things are going on, you need to chill a little bit, time to slow down, take a puff, and relax. And it's always good to do that with a friend. Community is what cannabis is all about. And we're very lucky on this show to have a friend that comes by every week, almost every week. There's been only a couple that missed, but in 2.5 years, that's pretty good. But Glenn Wells, come and join me.
Thank you, sir.
8 out of 10, Glenn, cannabis.ca.
You might have to, wait, I have to turn this a little bit here.
Okay, well, you're the producer today.
Yeah, I'm the cameraman.
You're the producer today.
Slash cameraman, yeah. I love
a little more.
420.
I'm the producer, too.
Yep, there you go.
And Neil is on vacation.
Yes, he is.
And probably on his way back from Saskatchewan.
Would you call Saskatchewan a vacation? so flat
Well,
there.
it's good to get away.
Yeah, it's good to get away.
Good to get away, because then you know what you got. Then coming back, you're like, yeah, this is what I want.
Yeah,
home.
In Saskatchewan, the roads are all straight. In BC, they're all curvy.
I don't want to slight my good friends in Saskatchewan.
Oh, I love my friends in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, they're the best growers in Canada.
Yeah.
They got that going on. They got the widest sunset.
They do. And you can see for miles and miles and miles and miles.
Yeah. It takes a long time for your dog to get out of sight if he's trying to run away on you.
You can always see a good storm coming for a couple hours.
And they have pretty good storms.
Yes, they do. Yes. You can always see it coming. You know it's coming. You got a couple hours of batten down the hatches.
It's windy in southern Saskatchewan.
It can be, yeah.
But a beautiful place full of beautiful people, except there's too many cops there. And the government is corrupt like it is everywhere else.
It's the same government, isn't it? Oh,
No,
well, federal.
No. They've got provincial stuff going on in Saskatchewan, and there's a particular wealthy family there that really controls just about everything, including the cannabis stores and the cannabis sales and things. And so, they're corrupt there, just like just about everywhere else. And we should, in Canada, put together a group of some of our smartest people, ethical smart people, and come up with a method of governance where we can limit those politicians so that they can't be as corrupt as what they've become.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That'd be nice. That'd be a smart thing to do.
Just like a little ethical meter attached to their bodies or something, and a zap like a dog.
For one thing, I think they'd be a lot less corrupt if they were more transparent.
Yep.
And I think transparency in today's world is easy. We could easily just have one hired person to follow every MP around, and we have one for each MP.
Well, they do.
Not one to follow
assistants.
each MP, but one for each MP.
Yeah.
And just let us see what they're doing all day long. Why not?
Well, they have assistants.
Why not? They have assistants.
So
they could have another assistant.
Let's put body cameras on the assistants, and we don't have to hire somebody else.
That could work too.
There you go. Right.
No point in wasting money.
Yeah. Right. And we just put a little camera on that person, and
but the assistant might be doing other things, and I would like somebody dedicated to show me what the minister is doing.
True.
I think if we're going to pay the minister all that money and give them all that power, we should be seeing what they're doing all day, every day. Why not? Why not? Are they proud of what they're doing? There might be some sensitive stuff.
There might be.
With some ministers that maybe the general public shouldn't know about, but I think that's rare for the most part.
Yeah.
And we can deal with that. But,
there's stuff that they don't want us knowing what the big companies are doing, right? That's the sensitive stuff, right?
I think as I'm suggesting this, there's a number of them that are shaking in their boots thinking, oh boy, we sure can't have that going on.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
It's too bad. And it needs to stop. It's really going to destroy our whole civilization in the future if we can't have reasonable, ethical governance, of the masses of people here. This corruption that's escalating. My goodness, it's escalating so much.
Power of the people.
What Trudeau did, in the War Measures Act and in seizing bank accounts and in a narrative condemning good Canadian people with real concerns, the way that he did there, that's horrifying.
It is.
With what they're doing in the States on so many levels, they're going to have a red flag law.
They actually came to an agreement. I saw that. When it broke, the Democrats and Republicans have come together for a gun agreement.
Yeah. So
wow.
Even on anybody's complaint, you will lose your firearms.
Yeah.
They will take your property.
Yeah.
No more due process.
Nope.
No more going to a judge with the right information and make sure it's all valid before they do anything like that. They are going to go so far against their own constitution and what's supposed to be happening down there, or what has been happening for 400 years.
Yeah.
And this is the trend. This is the trend. Let's take people's rights away.
Yeah.
Let's use these horrific events that happen. They got shootings going on down in the States all the time.
All the time now. Yeah.
I mean, they need to do something about that.
Yeah.
You want to legitimately take the guns away from the crazy people? It still wouldn't prevent all the shootings that are going on because you can't do all that. But that's fine. But with what they're proposing, or maybe it's law now, I don't know. But it's just ridiculous that so your wife can complain. You're in the middle of a divorce or whatever. She can just lodge a complaint. She can lodge an anonymous complaint.
I guess, but I think it's only like a 30 or 60 or 90-day ban, and then you can be
it's reviewed,
reviewed,
or something like that.
Yes,
but this is still outrageous.
Which can happen because when you're fighting with your spouse, that can get violent. So that is kind of
that is. I mean, if there's good evidence that that's the case, fine.
I know there's going to be faults because that's the balance of things, right?
Well, they didn't put the balance in there, according to those experts that I've been listening to. Anyway,
even men today are being told by the cop, or told to the cops that women say that men hit them, and they didn't, right? We still have that part of that, but that's still part of the law too, right?
And don't get me wrong, I'm not in favor of guns,
no,
but I'm not in favor of governments taking away people's guns either.
No,
I think people deserve the right to have a gun if they're reasonable people. I think there should be the right checks and balances and all of that.
Losing your gun for 60 days while you go through this is okay.
Well, it depends.
I would think that's okay because this is an emotional time of your life, and maybe you do need.
Like I say, it depends. It depends on the complaint.
Right.
It depends on some validity of the complaint. There needs to be some due process. That's all I'm saying. There needs to be some due process. It's one of the key fundamentals of how our society works: is innocent until proven guilty, and then due process before you're found guilty, and then all these other things. We need to get better, not worse, and they're getting worse, not better. Mm-hmm. And that's my real concern. And same with the pot legalization.
Yeah.
For them to decide that they can tell us it's legalization,
it's legalized,
and then it's not.
Yeah.
So
it's government controlled pot.
So we should talk a little bit about the Cannabis Substitution Program and the quest for a community-based low barrier access store. If you've been following the show, it's been quite a journey of ours trying to get government approval to be able to rescue people from addiction using cannabis high-dose edibles. We've had great success in doing that. We've demonstrated for 5 years and more now just how well that works. And yet, despite that, we've still got a federal government that is hell-bent on not allowing us to do what we're doing. They have given us notice that their intent is to deny our application for two reasons. The first one is because they say all of our supply is not legal. Mm-hmm. And we've said, make our supply legal, help us get legal supply, allow for licensed producers and dispensaries to provide donations in the form of the overage that they're otherwise destroying.
Yeah.
Let us grow as designated growers for our program, that sort of thing. But they have made no effort to engage with us to discover how we could have a legal source, whether or not we're interested in having a legal source, and we are, and it's in our application that our suppliers be licensed because they've proven themselves and they're open to being scrutinized and tested, that we have all the testing equipment in place to be able to provide that data, and why wouldn't that be good enough? There's been no effort on Health Canada's part to try to figure out how to get us a legal supply. Number one. Number two, the most ludicrous of all reasons, is that they say that they're not going to license us to provide low barrier access to people. They will require that anybody that we provide it to have a doctor on board authorizing their use of high-dose cannabis edibles. Ludicrous as can be. Ludicrous as can be. Even more ludicrous when you understand the enforcement efforts against cannabis that is not part of the cartel. The amount of money and resources being spent by the CSU here in British Columbia to try to shut down anything that's not legal. Even the VPD that raided us, they're also raiding other cannabis pop-ups.
Oh, really?
And places. Yeah, there was Thornton Park has had a regular pop-up there that they've now raided a few times, and I see they're not there anymore. So there's money, tax dollars being spent on enforcement to try to protect the cartel. That's absurd and obscene.
Yeah.
For people to have a doctor supporting their access to high-dose edibles.
Because it's over 10 milligrams.
Yeah, you can get 10 milligrams.
No problem.
In a chocolate bar or in a drink or whatever.
Yeah.
But 10 milligrams doesn't do it for most of the people trying to get off of opioids or street drugs. They need hundreds of milligrams, most of them, not everybody, but most of them do, and it's up to a person what works for them, and not up to a government to decide for them what will and won't work and what they can and cannot have. Some people require hundreds, even thousands of milligrams of edibles in a day, and that's up to them. You know, if that helps them, in their opinion. Unless we had a bunch of people dying from consuming high-dose edibles, then maybe the government could step in and try to find a way to keep people from consuming so much that it doesn't kill a bunch of people, but nobody's dying. Yeah. People are dying from fentanyl, crack and heroin and all these other things that are mixed with fentanyl, alcohol, barbiturates, amphetamines, other drugs. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's readily available right down here. Yeah. All 1 block away, all up and down the sidewalk. You can walk up there.
Walk a block, just walk halfway down the alley.
Just to the other side of the alley there. Yeah. Not even there, in the alley. Yeah. In the alley.
Yeah, it's all right there.
That stuff continues on. There's minor enforcement of some of that. Hard to know what drives that, why they would choose to take out one dealer and leave all the rest. I mean, do the other dealers have something going on with the cops? They want to get rid of that guy? You know, why is it
that happens too? Sometimes.
There's lots of that stuff, you know. Yeah.
Competition, right?
But the point is, you can get whatever drugs you want down here quite easily. The hardest of drugs: whiskey, fentanyl, everything in between. and full-grown consenting adults, for the most part, are doing that. We don't have a lot of kids roaming the downtown east side doing that. There is some problems with some kids doing hard drugs in their schools or whatever, but not so much down here on the downtown east side. My point is, it's easy to get that stuff. And without it being easy to get high-dose cannabis edibles, those people are stuck with that stuff. They're addicted because they can't get through withdrawal. High-dose edibles can get them through withdrawal. So it's very immoral, unconscionable, damn it, it's criminal. The federal government is not wanting to give us a license to do what we have proven is the right thing to do to rescue people from this situation. It's insane.
It's insane, stupid. Insane. It really is.
It makes no sense to me whatsoever. So, we've got now about 90 days left. We've got until early September to convince Health Canada that this is what they need to do.
That it's in the public interest.
Not to convince Health Canada that we can do it the way that they say it has to be done, and turn our backs on the tens of thousands of Canadians who will not admit to being a drug addict, will not go and tell their doctor about it, will not do anything that allows their family to know. They're embarrassed about it. They are stuck not being able to get through withdrawal, having to go and rescore all these hard drugs on a regular basis. They are at risk of dying because of that. And for the government to not allow for discreet dispensing in a low barrier store is murdering those people. It's absolutely it's like they need something to live. Let's call it food. The government decides to block your access to food, and you die. That's murder.
It is.
These people are stuck in a situation in many cases perpetrated by doctors. Who have put them on this stuff in irresponsible ways in many cases. And now they're stuck there, and without it, they're going to have to keep going and getting more. They're going to eventually end up getting fentanyl mixed in with what they're taking, and they, like tens of thousands of other Canadians already, are going to die. At home, alone, with nobody suspecting that that's what was going on with them. That's what the government is doing in blocking access to everybody without a doctor's permission. Because these people are people who can't and won't get a doctor's permission.
I heard on the news today that they're going to be teaching all high school students how to use the naloxone. All throughout British Columbia, all the high school students are going to learn how to do this. Wow, eh? Like, just provide more safe.
It's terrible that that's a world that we live in where that's probably the right thing to do. That's terrible. It's terrible that...
I guess they could save their parents or maybe a friend.
Wow.
Right? There's a lot of kids there.
Chances are you're not going to be carrying a kit with you. I mean, if you're on the downtown east side,
of course,
you don't need to even carry a kit with you because they're everywhere. There's people, with kits all around you. and I've been trained. Everybody's been trained how to use them here.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots of. But in the main regular mainstream, you're not going to probably come across somebody that you need to.
No, but in a high school setting, they would probably have one in the high school.
Sure, but do we really have a lot of kids overdosing to death in high school?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think so.
I'm not in that
I
scene
think we
anymore.
I know we have some high school
older.
students that have overdosed on fentanyl-laced drugs.
Home, but not at school,
home,
right? Yes.
or in their tree fort.
Yeah.
Or in their friend's basement. Or,
yeah.
But...
yeah, never at school.
Yeah,
that's true, yeah.
I mean, if you're a young person and you're in that crowd, if that's who you're hanging with, if that's what you're doing, get your Narcan kit. It should be easy to get for you.
Yeah.
But what really needs to happen is it needs to be made extremely well known that cannabis high-dose edibles can get you through withdrawal, can do the same thing for you that those other drugs are doing. You want to have a wild and crazy trip, just eat high-dose edibles a little more than, and you can get yourself having a wild and crazy, out-of-control trip. Even if you're sleeping, you're probably having, pretty vivid...
I've been having some pretty good dreams lately. And I'm not one to usually remember dreams all through my life, but if I do, it turned out to be somewhere where I've moved to or something that has part of my life in it, right?
I remember Dory's Brownies wiped out a whole party at Greg Williams' house one time, and everybody was passed out on the couch till about 3 or 4 in the morning. And when we were all starting to wake up, the main comment was, "Holy shit, the colors!"
It was that good, eh?
Yeah, Dory made some good brownies.
That was just weed brownies?
Yeah. Just
Wow,
weed brownies.
Wow.
But, you can have hallucinations on weed brownies. You can see colors. You can pass out and have vivid dreams.
To a ball and go to sleep. Yeah,
There's the range of experiences with cannabis. And you can green out on concentrates, as you know.
Yeah.
So
which I haven't yet.
And the point there is that if you're a young person or any person and you're deciding you're going to experiment with some of these crazy drugs, well, you don't have to go any farther than cannabis to have those types of experiences. I mean, for sure, you could do some mushrooms and have a little more. You could do some LSD.
Yeah.
The other plant medicines can be very psychoactive and hallucinogenic. DMT, oh my God, talk about psychoactive.
There you go.
Not to be used lightly in many cases with some of those other plant medicines. You need to have the right scene going on there, the right setting, the right people, the right music, the right mindset is important in some cases. But with the plants, and not talking heroin, that's opium is different than heroin and fentanyl and carfentanil.
Right?
It's not. It's different in that it's not been concentrated like those ones have.
Okay.
Those are the high concentrates of the opium plant.
Yeah.
And opium in itself,
that comes from the poppy plant, right?
Yeah.
So that's
a derivative of the poppy plant.
The gooey stuff.
The gooey stuff, when you slice the pod after the flowers have fallen off, and it's got that white latex oily stuff that comes out of there.
That's
opium.
Wow.
And
it grows in Canada. I've seen lots of poppy fields
all over
and
the
stuff.
place.
Shit, we have a poppy fields. The poppy is our poppy thing, right? For Remembrance Day.
It's a great medicine when used properly. Most things are when used properly.
Yeah, cannabis.
It was really foisted on people by Britain, a long time ago, on the Chinese especially. And when it starts to get concentrated, when you use it every day, then it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem trying to stop using it because your body develops a dependency on it. Your brain develops a dependency on cannabis, but not your body so much, in that there's not real serious physical withdrawals from quitting a harsh cannabis habit.
There
can be some physical withdrawals from that, but it's not like the hell you go through with the opioid based drugs. That's for damn sure.
Opioid based is a lot of hell you go through.
So Health Canada decides that after almost 2 years of us continuing the program, continuing to demonstrate the safety and the effectiveness of what we're doing, and us believing that every new day of having a successful day is one day more that it's going to be harder for anybody to tell us not to do this, because look how it's working.
Mm-hmm.
Just a steady stream of people that come to us every day in need, that tell us how thankful they are to get what they're getting, telling us how much it's helping them sleep, helping them quit the other stuff, and then walking away happy. Everybody walks away happy.
How scared they would be if you weren't there, that they'd have to go back.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Without you...
People are crying.
We'd be in trouble. Yeah. And they were really scared when we got raided. We had a lot of people really expressing that they were really concerned that we were going to have to stop doing what we're doing. But we haven't.
And the petition's still 1,300 signatures?
Yeah, something like that. We've slowed down on getting signatures because we're back in the RV for a week. And we got that many signatures. And the signatures originally were to get us our RV back.
Okay.
To allow us to keep doing what we were doing. That's how that petition read.
That would be for
So we're going to have an online petition that we're just finalizing the wording on it.
Yeah.
We want to make it a good one. We want to make it right. And we want to have Jenny Kwan present it to the House of Parliament once we get the right amount of signatures on it.
Okay.
So we're going to do that. But what we've done is we didn't stop. Mm-hmm. The VPD raided us 5 weeks ago, I think today, on a Tuesday afternoon. They seized the RV. They charged 3 of us with trafficking against the Cannabis Act. And so that put us into a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
We did not stop providing the service. We were adamant that we could not and would not stop providing the service. These people, there's 268 people that are members of the Cannabis Substitution Program. There's hundreds more that have come to rely on us that are not members, but that come to us every day or on a daily basis pretty much, that are relying on us. We can't stop providing them the cannabis that they're using to not use the other drugs. We just, in all good conscience, we can't do that. If the world we're living in is so corrupt that armed thugs in uniforms with badges and guns are going to come and drag us away in chains and put us into cages, I guess I can't do much from a cage, so there's your answer to stopping me.
Yeah.
But I suspect that would just prompt 5 other Neils to step forward.
Yeah.
5 other people like me that are watching me, that are keeping close attention on what's going on here. And if they take me down, they're going to step up.
Yeah.
I know that's true. And so they're not going to stop us. We have to keep doing this. And I did it. Once they raided us, I went into, a mode of, what do we do now? This is outrageous. Never saw this coming. What do we do? Well, number one, we go to the media. Yeah. Because this is a big story. This is causing death amongst people. This is government corruption at its most, and we need the media to follow this. And so that happened. Yeah. Lead story on City TV, CKNW covered for a whole day, and there's a bunch of other media as well. Some I don't even know about. That a lot of it happened. I did a number of interviews with people. So that happened. I started trying to find every VPD officer I could find to talk to, and I wanted a senior VPD officer. I did write an email to the deputy chief, Steve Rye, but I wasn't going to continue bugging him. I told him what happened. I asked him why. I did not get an email back from him. I don't know if or what he did, to try to help us. I suspect he did. He does appreciate what we're doing here. Yeah. He would have inquired as to what happened, why we were raided. Who knows what that would have done to help us. So there was that. There was also Rebecca Bly at City Hall, who she approached me in an email and said, I heard you got raided. This is terrible. We're going to look into this for you. So I don't know what did what. I did find some cops to talk to. I talked to the one property officer, or property office staff sergeant. That's who he was. He was familiar with the file. He'd looked at it that morning. Yeah. That was interesting. Creepy, too, a little bit, Oh, wow. I walked in there because they had taken our tent. Because I left the tent up on a windy day and went to get my son to come and work there. And by the time I got back, the tent was gone. And they told me the police took it. So I went to find out about getting that back. And, of course, while I was there, I wanted to talk to some senior officer about the RV. And it was probably there, too. And so sure enough, they did have that staff sergeant. And we went into a room and we had our conversation about it. During the conversation, he said, Because I'm telling them, look, we did this right from the beginning. There was no licenses to get. We went to the VPD board and to City Council before we started, and Vandu. We tried every step of the way to get government support and approval. When legalization happened, we applied for licenses. All of this has been going on. At some point in the conversation, he said, well, we did find 21 grams of crystal meth in your RV. Holy smokes, I said, no, you didn't. Not a chance. You did not.
Yeah.
If it's there, you planted it there.
Yeah.
And I went on quite a rant about, who we are, what we're doing here, how we're affected by what we see going on here, the people that are coming to us that are drug sick on these things, that want out, and we help them get out. We would never, ever have anything to do with helping people get access to those things.
Yeah.
They can have it. They should have access if that's what they as human beings want. They should have a safe supply of it somewhere, some way to get that's reasonable so that they aren't forced into a dangerous, underground, unregulated marketplace of who knows what going on. That should be happening. But, we would not be part of that. We're not here to do that. We're here to provide an option for people other than those things. So I went on quite a rant about that. I said, there's no way, sir. Not a chance. What did it look like? He said, well, I've seen pictures of it. It was
like that?
It was in glass vials with little white lids on them. I think where did I put those? Here's one right here. That's exactly what they had there. Well, we don't have them that look like yours. We have this is what they look like.
This is the THC crystals.
Yeah, but you didn't get that one here.
No, I know. This is but this is
because we package everything up here.
Yeah.
These are our cannabis concentrates. So this is what we put diamonds and butter and other things into. And some of that stuff might look like it's white powder of some sort. The butter especially is pretty refined. It looks pretty, just off-white. Could pass for some stuff maybe. So much so that I even considered how we could possibly do a double-blind test on some crack users to get them to think that what we're giving them is just a new form of crack.
Oh yeah, I know.
Most crack users aren't chasing the bell anyway. Butter's not going to ring your bell.
No.
But it is going to provide a very profound experience that is close enough to what the crack users are getting when they're not having their bell rung, that they chase most of the time. That they might just think, hey, this is pretty good, this new crack, I like that, and end up getting themselves off of crack without even knowing that that's what happened.
Yeah.
So I'd love to do that. But, we did not have any crystal meth in the RV. We would never have that going on.
Crystals without sauce.
So we don't know why. And I guess I pursued more conversations with the VPD. That officer gave me the phone number of the officer that they claim was the lead officer that day of the raid, although of the 8 to 10 officers that were here, no one would admit to that. No. And even this officer, when I called him and told him that, he said, well, there was 2 or 3 of us that were kind of in charge. He just didn't want nobody wanted to be in charge that day of taking us down or trying to take us down. But I wanted to have a conversation with him. And he said, do you want to do it on the phone or do you want to do it in person? I said, I'd prefer to do it in person, sir. But, he continued to ask me questions. So I continued to tell him my concerns. And we had a long talk. I told him the whole story that I tell you folks every week. I try to do a little recap and, getting good at articulating the recap of our journey here and how we've tried to do everything right and who we are and what we're doing here and the successes that we've had and how many people support us and that the only issue is Health Canada's corruption, that they don't want to allow for cheap cannabis to be sold to protect the interests of those greedy bastards that think that they should still get higher than prohibition pricing. So I had that conversation with him. He said, look, all this stuff you're talking about is beyond my pay grade. And I said, but you're reporting to these people. This pay grade it is, So he said, well, do you want me to tell them of our conversation? I said, of course I do. Mm-hmm. I want to talk to them myself, And so the very next day, we get a call from just some random VPD calling me on my phone saying, Mr. Magnuson, you can come and get your RV.
Wow.
There will be no charges assessed to you for it, no costs incurred.
Impound charges.
Come and get it.
Wow.
Well, it wouldn't start, so I had to tow it out of there. I had to pay for that. But in any case, but and a cop, not that one, but another cop. I had several, at least 6, really good conversations with VPD after the raid. The only thing was I had a couple of them tell me even after the conversation, well, you just got to obey the law.
Okay.
People are dying around you, and you're not allowed to help them.
No.
Just obey the law.
You have to obey the law, right? Yeah.
Ludicrous. But I guess that's a cop for you. Well ingrained into towing the company line and by the book. You're breaking the law.
But this is what I got to do.
Yeah, just doing what I'm told and paid to do here.
Yeah, really.
It's worse that they're paid to do it.
Yeah.
It's bad enough that they're told to do it, but that they're paid, and they're paid out of our money to do stuff that we all know is wrong, that nobody wants them to do.
Hard working money.
We work hard for our money. We suffer because of how much we have to pay the government.
Yeah.
And they're going to use that money to have a police officer go and poke his nose into a bunch of, 20-year-olds that are standing outside of a nightclub smoking something that isn't tobacco that would kill them. And for that, they're going to get arrested and have to go to court and maybe lose their job and have their families turn on them and all the rest of it that goes on because cops are using monies supplied by hardworking Canadians to go and give criminal records to young human beings that are simply trying to enjoy themselves. This is ludicrous and insane, and it's costly, and it's horrendous, and it's horrific, and I don't know how many other words we can use, but, maybe I can find the right combination of words one day to get everybody to understand how flippin' wrong this is. You can stand there with your group of friends and imbibe on some tobacco, having drunk yourself silly in the nightclub you're standing in front of, and you're all good to go. But don't be standing somewhere, imbibing with some friends some of that medicinal herb that is not full of adulterated with a bunch of poisons, that doesn't kill 5 or 6 million human beings every 12 months on the planet here, that isn't the number 1 cause of hospitalizations in Canada. I mean, you're good to go smoking that stuff. The cop's going to come and he's going to see the smoke, going to have to come over and give a little sniff. Going to see if it's, the poison or the medicine. And if it's the medicine, well, you can't be having that. No, we're going to ruin your life for that because, hey, that stuff could ruin your life, man. That's what the cops will tell you. You're going down a bad path, young man. Be careful with your choices, young man.
Oh, man.
You're going down a bad path with that stuff.
So
you should just be down in that establishment down the street drinking your face off. And don't smoke that stuff. Smoke the stuff that kills everybody because... Well, man, that marijuana stuff, that's just bad, right? That's the devil's plant. That's evil. It must be, right? Because otherwise it wouldn't be illegal. If it wasn't evil and bad, it wouldn't be illegal, would it?
Yeah.
Well, it sure as hell shouldn't be.
and now that the government's going to write on each individual cigarette.
Oh, I saw that.
You see that?
I saw that.
Yeah, but you know what? They're not going to write on joints. This could get you high. Right.
They already write on the packaging.
Yeah.
They got the pot leaf with a big on a stop sign, like we do.
Yeah, right there.
Except ours is saying that THC will help stop fentanyl from killing you, and theirs is saying beware of cannabis. Be careful with that THC stuff. It's never killed anybody, but we don't know what. We used to say it drove you violent and insane, but we all know that's not true. So now it's going to make you lazy and you won't go to work and feed your family or something.
That's not true.
Or you'll be easily coerced into communism and fight against good Canadian capitalists.
I've known police officers that go to work every day and they smoked cannabis, so that's not true.
I'm glad cops are smoking cannabis now. You can see it in many of the VPD.
Yeah.
They're smoking weed now.
Yeah.
They used to all just be a bunch of drunks. Some of them still are.
Yeah.
But they can smoke weed now, and that's very, very good. Unlike the RCMP. So,
poor RCMP, man.
both groups of enforcement people who are supposed to be peace officers, but both the VPD and the RCMP are allowed to use cannabis.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
VPD, they have to allow 8 hours to go by.
Yeah.
Before they have a shift.
Yeah.
In between using cannabis. So, you can use it after your shift, sleep for 8 hours, go to work, you're good to go.
Yeah.
RCMP, 30 days.
Yeah.
30 days.
So you can't work.
I can't. You're obviously not smoking any weed if you're a functioning RCMP
or
officer.
if you're on vacation, because you only get a week or two off.
Oh, yeah, you're not
vacation,
getting 30 day
right?
vacation.
You can't do it then. You know. But you can
And
go
even if you got a
drink.
30-day vacation, would you be able to smoke weed on the first day of it and then not the 29 days after
Well,
that?
you can have a drink before your shift,
Oh, I know.
right? Or you can drink after your shift or whatever, or drink all night and go to work.
Or
and not even sleep.
if you're lucky enough to be undercover,
Yeah.
then you can drink on shift.
Yeah.
Then you can do all kinds of drugs on shift. Then you can have perverted sex on shift too.
I heard about that.
You
Yeah.
know that one?
Yeah, people. Yeah, I know.
The VPD.
Oh, I'm
There's
sorry.
a big investigation going on because it
What's
came to light that they're having their potential undercover officers go through some serious training, rigorous training, because it's dangerous out there. If you're going to infiltrate a drug gang, well, you're going to have to go through some pretty horrific stuff, and you better be ready for it.
Prove that you're not a cop.
Prove you're not a cop.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to learn how to expose your genitals, because that's one of the things that drug gangs do to you if you're going to join their drug gang. You want to sell weed for me, young man? Show me your penis.
And defecate on this person too. They're defecating on them.
They're shoving vegetables up each other's orifices.
Wow.
Because that happens too, you know. I mean,
Wow.
you want to
Just
sell
what-
weed for
you
this
know-
drug gang, you're
Yeah.
gonna have to bend over, laddie.
Yeah, that's it. Make
Oh
sure
my
that you're not
God.
a cop, right? Prove that you're not a cop.
Prove you're not a cop. So how much fun did they have with those ones, eh? Oh my God.
Well, that ain't happening
Not to mention, they can also use those non-medical suppositories.
Not medical suppositories.
The government non-medical stores.
Yeah.
They sell suppositories there.
Okay. And they're
So
not
those are just for fun, folks. That's what people are doing now on a Friday night. They're helping each other insert suppositories.
I guess that saves a lot of hamstring flies.
Well, I'm not sure the suppositories
Or
run
gerbils.
around.
Is it
Like the gerbils, yeah.
the gerbils. All those gerbils
That's
are
a
probably
gerbil
happy
thing.
about that.
How durable is that? That's durable. Poor gerbils. Poor gerbil. No wonder they're running around like crazy up in there.
I know.
Oh my God. I guess the cops have to go through some of that too, probably. That's their
Oh my
homework.
gosh.
The homework. They can get the cucumber, during the training session, at the space there where they train. But their homework is to bring a gerbil home.
What I don't understand is how these police agencies thought it was okay to do it in front of the RCMP who are monitoring this whole program.
Well, because I'm sure
Let's just do this in front of the RCMP so they can tell, like, hey, hold on, this is not right. What are you guys doing here? We better stop this right now and have an investigation, right?
I think they probably thought the RCMP were well into that too.
We're going to be right on the
Yeah,
ball.
they're doing the same thing, aren't they?
Fuck, hey?
It is so corrupt, man.
Oh my
Like
God.
this whole nonsense of the drug prohibition has resulted in such perverse corruption.
It does.
I mean, the money that's available to these cops.
Yep.
They shake people down in the neighborhood regularly.
Yeah.
They don't charge them.
No, they take their stuff.
They just take their money.
Yep.
They take their money, tell them to go away, and they're back the next day, or the next guy's there the next day.
Yeah.
But there's no charges, there's just shakedown. How much of that money disappears?
Yeah.
Maybe none of it. Maybe these are good ethical cops, but really,
We don't know.
you think that that's what's going on in the world?
We don't
Are we
know.
that dumb, really, that we're going to, just imagine that the people that get jobs as cops are not going to be tempted by, free, easy money that nobody would ever know that they took?
When I was growing up in
Holy
Toronto,
shit.
we had the Cherry Beach Express.
Yeah?
Yeah,
What
which
was
was
that?
the same thing. You could either be charged or you'd be taken down to Cherry Beach and have a beating, and then they let you go.
Right.
Right? So
Right.
that
They
was
get
it.
their rocks off beating up people.
I guess so.
Sure.
Not every cop offered you. A lot of them did arrest you, but there were some that would give you that choice.
Yeah.
You can take a beating or you will charge you. Right? So
Crazy.
yeah, there was an actual song I think written about the Cherry Beach experience and stuff in Toronto. There, one of the bands. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Though the risk of corruption that happens when you try to prohibit drugs is just incredible, and it's been shown all over the place. There's been police arrested on corruption so many times. Entire police precincts have been dismissed because of corruption. And it's not fair.
No.
It's not fair to the cops to be constantly put into those situations where there's a whole bunch of tax-free money that nobody would know they took. Because there's very few other reasons the cops would be going into buildings and searching and finding large sums of money, except for drugs. It gives them all this opportunity to go into these places where they have no respect for the people in the places. Even if you're just a grower and they're in your house because you're growing, the cops think you're scum. They don't care for you at all. So they don't care that they destroy your stuff when they're going through it, and they purposely do a lot of that. They certainly don't care that they find a bunch of money stashed away because you've been selling your cannabis plants that you're growing. They don't respect that. They're not going to catalog that if they don't have to. They're going to just make that disappear because they can. And they don't want to give you the benefit of having that money cataloged so that you can maybe get it back or whatever. It's just safer for them to just take it. So they do. And it happens all over the place. Everybody I know that's been busted has had things disappear. There's not as much of what they were busted for that shows up. There's money that goes missing that nobody ever says nothing about. There's jewelry and stuff that goes missing. It's just putting these police in the position where they have that opportunity is not fair to them. So, let alone to the people that they're involved with. You're innocent until proven guilty. You're growing cannabis plants to feed your family and to provide your extended family with a medical herb because there's a corrupt world we're living in where they can't get it. And yet you're lumped into that same category as everybody else. You're treated like scum. They destroy your things. They destroy your life. They hate you. We're just trying to live our lives. We know the world is corrupt. We know this plant can help our family. It can pay our bills and it can help our sick. So living in a world where you know that's the case. This is a good plant. It'll help pay my bills. It'll help heal my family. The government is corrupt. It is the obligation of a righteous human being to break bad laws.
To show them where they're wrong.
So we're doing the right thing as human beings in trying to overgrow the government, to defying laws that are there to hurt people, to protect corporate greed. Defying those laws is an obligation of a good human being. So we're criminalized, penalized, tortured, and involved in all sorts of life ruination for doing the right thing.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's upside down, backwards, inside out, and needs to be fixed.
You know about the word fair, though, how we say it's not fair. And I kind of look at it now as it's just the opposite, because it's going to be there no matter what. So maybe we could do something more if we stop saying it's not fair. And let's just realize that it's going to be part of it no matter what. Good cops, bad cops, rich, poor. There's always an opposite to everything. But let's have some people
greed
in
and
there.
need.
There'll be some people in there that'll be looking exactly for that. Instead of saying it's not fair and being pouty or whatever, let's just realize that, okay, when we create something, there's going to be athletes who will bet against themselves and not bet against themselves, or bet against other teams and not. It's just, that's the way it's going to be,
right? If there
right?
is room for corruption, there will be corruption.
Well, there's because
hey, what's going on over there?
Hey, you two. There's a live show going on here.
We know cat torturing while we're live on air. Poor Cato. Don't worry about Cato. He can defend himself.
He just did.
There's lots of blood and scars to prove that. So so it's kind of like a new Murphy's Law. You know, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Anything that can be corrupted will be corrupted. If there's big money in play, and there's a way for people to cheat, they will.
But you know what? Murphy was wrong. What can go wrong will go wrong. That was true. Every car could break down, but it's not. Okay.
So Murphy's Law is not accurate. I took context training. I took context training, the pursuit of excellence, where in one of our final courses or lessons, we learn to take upon ourselves the attitude that I'm responsible for everything that happens in my life and in my world.
Yes.
That because and then we went through that as a group of about 30 people. Here's the statement: I am responsible for everything that happens to me in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Is it true?
Yes.
No.
No?
No, of course
Why?
it's not. Not necessarily true.
You're not
You're not responsible for everything that happens in your life.
Everything.
You're not responsible
I
for the way your parents treated you in some cases.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
Lots and lots and lots of things.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
Okay.
It's just not necessarily true.
Yeah.
But what it is it's a position of looking at something that empowers you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it became a valid thing to take on as a position. Because if you don't think that you're responsible for things in your world that need changing,
mm-hmm.
then you're not as likely to go and try to fix them.
Yeah.
If you believe that you're responsible, you will go and fix it. It puts you in a position where you can be active in changing it.
Yeah.
And so this one is like that too. And Murphy's Law is like that too. Murphy's Law, it isn't that everything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah, because this chair would break it. Because it could.
For me, I took it that if I think to myself, I'm about to go on this trip, maybe I should take this with me, and I don't take that, then I'm going to need it. If I do take it, there's a good chance it'll just sit in the back seat and I won't need it. But if I don't take it, pretty good chance I'm going to need it. So, once again, not necessarily true.
Yeah.
But just a way of looking at things that helps make decisions about whether you do or don't take something. And that's an extension of Murphy's Law, that particular one right there. And so this one as well. Anything that can be corrupted will be corrupted. Not necessarily the truth, but it needs to be taken as the truth so that we protect against it as best we can.
Yeah.
So we eliminate as much of the opportunity as possible for the corruption to happen.
Yeah.
And that's all we can do.
That's all we can do. It's not fair. It's not fair.
So that's why I say we need in government, we need them to be limited, accountable, and transparent. Because those are three things that we can do to keep them from being so corrupted. If they're accountable for corruption, they're going to pay a price for it. Less chance they'll be corrupt if there's that penalty there. And if there's no penalty, which is the way it is right now, really governments can be corrupt without any penalty. They don't usually get caught at all. If they do get caught, it's difficult to convict them. There has to be a real paper trail, and the courts aren't very willing to convict public servants like that anyway, unless there's a public appetite for it because they've been caught with their hand in the cookie jar or something like that. Then they'll make it look like they do something, and they'll make an example out of this particular person. But usually it's swept under the carpet because it's one of their own. They don't want it to be known that it can be that corrupt, and they don't want anything to change with the way that they can access corruption because that's putting money in their pockets and security in their lives.
Well, body cameras on cops should do that.
That's a great one, yeah.
But and I know sometimes they say, "Oh, they weren't working," and so there's a glitch. But we've got satellite systems now that we can have those cameras on there. And if there's a glitch on your camera, then you're not a police officer while your camera is not working, right? So that they don't want to go in and make it glitch, right?
Always a peace officer, seldom a police officer.
If your camera is not working, you're automatically off duty, and anything you do is not protected, right?
Yeah, policy protection is no longer part of your job. You're just there to keep the peace if there's a need for it.
You're not supposed to be eating the leaves.
Are you eating my plant again?
Even the people on the terror were telling us, hey, I can't eat my leaves.
Yeah, I give him some of his own leaves because he seems to want them.
Yeah.
But he likes to chew them off the plant.
And then he went away. He didn't chew them all.
What a boy you are.
Yeah, I'll have to give him his own plant, eh?
So, yes. We need to stop the ability of these people to be so corrupt.
Yeah.
And a video camera crew or one person or whatever with every MP would be great.
Yeah.
Body cams on police officers are great ideas.
Even body camera on an assistant.
High penalties. Justice as determined so far in our world prior to the rule of law taking over from common law principles that are really the establishment of our charter here. But you need to be brought before a non-biased adjudicator. You need to be innocent until proven guilty. There needs to be compelling evidence that proves that it was you, that you did what you're accused of, and determining what the amount of damage was.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, we have, for justice, symbolizing this set of scales held by that blindfolded older matriarch and all that symbolizes. And on those scales is where, on the one side, you place the damage that they can prove that you did, and then on the other side, a penalty that is to balance the amount of damage that you did. So here, with having possession of some flowers, what damage was done? So that's why they had to change to the rule of law. Is when it became just so glaringly obvious that people were being penalized in Canada for possession of plants, and there was no victim.
There was no victim.
There was supposed to be a victim. You're supposed to have the victim present so you can look them in the eye.
Yeah.
Your accuser needs to be able to speak his accusations to you in person. All of those things. But there's no damage done in having possession of some plant. There's no victim that's there. There's no intent to cause any harm. There's no harm that's been proven. So how can there be a penalty? Why would there be a penalty?
Yeah.
It becomes a penalty because they decide it's going to be called the rule of law. And they get to make the rules, and you get to obey them. And if you break the rules, then there's a penalty for breaking the rules. And the penalty is determined by other penalties in similar cases for similar breaches of the rules.
Yes.
And this is the system we live in, and it's just open to corruption.
Because what's good for one is good for the other.
They can make whatever rule they want. They make whatever penalty they want for breaking the rule. There's no gauging of how much damage was done. There's no, in the case of cannabis, there's no intent by anybody to cause anybody else any harm with cannabis, other than the pharmaceutical companies. Maybe we're trying to hurt them. No, we're not. No, we're not. But that's where you could say some damages.
Yeah.
Legalizing cannabis could be very harmful for the bottom line profits of some corporations.
Or giving you a permit, because everybody else might want to start doing that, right?
Wouldn't that be a terrible thing?
I know, right?
If all of these places across Canada, and maybe around the world, that have issues with people that are struggling with drug addiction, and they're struggling with trauma, folks. That's what they're really struggling with. We have areas in big cities around the world where people gather who struggle with trauma.
Yeah.
They're traumatized because they're too poor to survive in a world that's expensive. They're traumatized because they can't get over a childhood that wasn't right for them. They're traumatized because the world is corrupt. And we're all scared of how corrupt it is and what could happen at any moment with a corrupt government that can freeze your bank account and call you a terrorist simply because you want answers to questions or whatever else they decide you're a terrorist for.
Yeah.
They're calling people terrorists for all sorts of crazy things. And when they start calling protesters terrorists, there's good reason for fear. So all of those things traumatize people. Some people are traumatized by rape. Some people are traumatized by the murder of close friends and loved ones, or maybe they witnessed. Some people are traumatized by horrible, horrible events. Some people are traumatized by war.
Yeah.
Traumatized people trying to live their life, avoiding all of the pain of the trauma. That's what's happening here and all over the world in centers where the services exist for these people or other like-minded and like-experienced people congregate. Wouldn't it be a terrible thing if there was low-barrier access community cannabis stores helping people with a real safe supply of what is a real nice option to the other harsh substances that people turn to deal with their trauma?
Or treatment centers that offer you a cannabis way out instead of a pharmaceutical way out. Right? So you can have both, because we know that cannabis is not going to work for everybody, but you could offer it. Right?
Needs to be an option.
The government could still make money from it because now they allow those growers to grow high-potency cannabis for these treatment centers so that they can do these kind of things. I don't know why the government could get on board making money that way too, right? And allow mom and pop growers to take up some of that space in the stores. And And
I want my government to be fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
I want them to be financially creative.
Yes.
I want them to do smart things to make my world better, to make us all rich, which they have great power to do and great ability to do if that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
I don't want them taking money from me and other citizens so that they can operate what they operate. I want them to find creative ways to raise money to provide the services that we're getting here. Why can't they be clever enough to do that?
Yeah.
Because that's doable. They won't give us a license to provide low barrier access to cannabis because of money.
Yeah.
It's all about money. It is not about the cannabis that we're providing being dangerous to the people that we're providing it for. There's never been a complaint of that. It's all about money.
Yep.
They do not want to allow for the excess that's grown by growers to be put into the marketplace and sold cheaper than what their stores are selling it for.
Because everybody would go to the cheaper store.
That's
Just
their
like
fear.
Like we all like to shop at Walmart, but there are people who don't like to shop at Walmart. So
The only
government
reason
would
people
still
don't
work.
like to shop at Walmart, there's a couple.
I'm just saying. But
One big reason is because they've got a lousy reputation environmentally and
Okay.
economically with respect to taking advantage of other poor people around the world.
I just ran about low
So
prices.
some of their stuff is produced with almost slave labor.
Okay.
You know, very poor workplace practices involved in some of that stuff. That's the reputation that they have.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you don't want to support them.
No.
Is because they're not a good employer
When you live
around
on
the world.
disability.
And the other reason would be because some people think it's cheap stuff and they only want expensive stuff, and so they're going to expensive stores. Those
But
are the
when
only
you
two
live
reasons.
on disability, you can't buy the stuff at the expensive stores. You have to shop at the Walmarts
Sure.
and the superstores and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Because that's all money that you have.
So the same
Right.
two things do not apply with cannabis
Mm.
being available.
Mm.
Low barrier access to cannabis would not harm the environment
No.
and does not involve poor production practices with respect to taking advantage of poor people around the world. It shouldn't involve that. In fact, the cannabis industry pays pretty good wages.
Yeah.
Everybody makes pretty good money.
Yeah.
It's ethically a really good green place to put some money there. So that it doesn't have what Walmart has going on with that.
No.
It does have going on what Walmart has going on with respect to it being seen as inferior, cheap product. People want expensive, high-powered, the best
Yes.
cannabis.
Yes.
So lots of people wouldn't go into a low-barrier
No,
access
that's what I'm
store
saying. Yeah.
because they just don't believe that they'd get as good quality cannabis there as what they're going to get at a high-end store.
At a higher store.
I hope that's not true. Although to some degree, I guess it would be. There is some really, really fine cannabis that's produced there.
You could shop at a pawn shop for your jewelry, or you could shop at Burke's for your jewelry,
Exactly.
right? You know what I'm saying, right?
But
So, yeah.
for Burke's to be taking some of their vast resources and shutting down all the pawn shops so that nobody has the ability to get anything cheap, they all have to go to Burke's for the expensive shit. That's not okay.
That's not going to.
And that's what our governments are doing. This isn't some big private corporation, because a big private corporation, they want to do that. They want to do that.
Yeah.
That's
Shut up
in
and
their
look
best
at it.
interest,
Of course,
money-wise.
yeah.
That's going to help them maximize their profits. Is if there just is no other cheap stuff out there. You have to buy the expensive stuff. There's no cheap jewelry available out there. They would do that if they could.
Yeah.
Because that's what business does.
Yeah.
Business takes advantage of loopholes to maximize their profits, minimize their expenditures, wipe out the competition if possible.
Yeah.
That's what business does. That's what it will do if it's allowed to do. And it will have slave labor going on. It would have poor business practice or production practices if it's cheaper for them. Whatever maximizes their profit, they don't care about people. They care about money. That's it. If you're a people and you got money, they care about you, but really they just care about your money. So that's business. But government is not supposed to be business ethics based. They're supposed to be human ethics based. They're the ones supposed to be protecting us from the business ethics, because those business ethics will result in slavery, poor manufacturing practices, poor production practices with respect to the monies that are spent to get the stuff to market.
Yeah.
That's what business will do if they're allowed to do that. People will get harmed.
Yeah.
People will be exploited. All of that kind of stuff. They will gouge. But governments aren't supposed to be like that. Governments aren't supposed to be gouging in an artificially high environment, a price environment that they've created for their stores that they license and then running a protection racket for those stores, wiping out the competition with taxpayers' money to boot. Like, no, that's not what governments are supposed to be doing here. They're supposed to be protecting us from those people, putting in regulations that just don't allow for poorly manufactured products done by people being paid a less than fair wage. That's what governments are supposed to be doing. But regulations to do with cannabis are nothing to do with making sure that poor people and daily users and people that are benefiting get easy, affordable access. It's the opposite. Their so-called legalization is to make sure that the prices stay high and higher than what they were before legalization, that poor people still don't get affordable access, that anybody that would dare compete with them is put out of business with powerful, powerful tools like $6.5 million fine to Ten and the Cannabis Buyers Club. Not because he raped children who are now scarred for life, but because he helped provide cannabis to people that needed it for medical reasons when the government was too corrupt to even admit that that could be the case. And for that, they think they can use that huge tool of $6.5 million fine, not to hurt Ted as much as it would hurt him if he actually had any of that money to give them, but to scare the hell out of everybody and anybody else that would dare try to compete with them.
Yeah.
This is an out-of-control business with no regulations that should be there imposed by a government that would be protecting people. This corporation that is the Canadian government is guilty of all of the things that we need to have governments in place for to protect us from. Mm-hmm. So let's do something about that, folks. What else do we need to cover? Cannabis Day. I want to talk a little more. Cannabis Day is coming, and that's it. But Cannabis Day is a very special day, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's been going on for longer than there was ever Canada Day. It's not associated with Canada Day, except that the Canadian government decided to co-opt our event on the day that we had been having it on and call itself Canada Day.
It was Dominion Day.
Just to mess with us, like some sort of unfair competition. They're like, hey, these people have a Cannabis Day going on. It happens to be on Dominion Day. Let's just change the name Dominion Day to Canada Day, and then that'll confuse everybody, and they'll stop thinking about Cannabis Day. Yeah, so that's what happened.
Well, then you get the people that go, oh, you guys are being like assholes for calling it Cannabis Day when we're all about Canada and all the people who have served this country.
No.
But now you want to change it to Cannabis Day?
No.
Right? No.
We didn't change it to Cannabis Day to take over Canada Day. Yeah. It's the other way around. Yeah. That's what the government did to us. We've been having Cannabis Day since long before there was ever any Canada Day. So let's get that one straight right off the bat. Cannabis Day is not a Canadian tradition. It might have started here, but Cannabis Day is Cannabis Day. It's been July 1st for over 25 years, and I am sure that there are people around the world that celebrate Cannabis Day on July 1st because that's a good day to do that, and any day to celebrate cannabis is a good day.
And because it's illegal, that's why it's not on any calendars. Because all the other holidays are on the calendars. Let's get fair play to Cannabis Day.
Well, let's do that.
So
absolutely.
Maybe all the Canadian calendars should now have Canada Day / Cannabis Day.
They should.
Or Cannabis / Canada Day.
Well,
Cannabis came first.
Because it's another.
Years, right?
Is there only does any day share itself with another day? There's Mother's Day and Father's Day, and are those days any other days? Is that also Firstborn Day?
I think Christmas, because Christmas is viewed as different things in different places, but celebrated on the same day, right?
No, but I mean,
Right,
like do
you
we
know what I'm
have?
saying?
Like, is there only 365 things that we celebrate every year like that?
Oh,
there's
no,
only
there-
365
I
things
don't
that
know
get
how
a
many
day.
holidays there are in a year, but we'd have to find out.
Well,
Like,
and I
there'd
don't
be
mean
different
just
holidays
I don't
in
mean
different
just
countries,
Christmas.
too. Yeah.
I'm talking about other things because we celebrate like there's all kinds of days for different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or weeks even. Some things it's give blood week or something like that. There's a lot of different things. So and cannabis is just another thing that we have a day for. So anyway, I'm just wondering. I'm just exploring the whole idea of Canada Day / Cannabis Day / Dominion Day / some other holiday somewhere else. I don't.
Well,
you can have more than one on one day.
Or we just call it Indigenous Day.
We're high here, folks. We just had the 420 session.
Right? Because they were here first.
I gotta smoke this joint now.
You gonna try that one from Nick?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Looking pretty good, eh?
That's this purple stuff right here. Oh, right there. Look at that. Near.
Oh, that's what that other joint was too. Then
That's what that is.
is that what that was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, the other stuff was something else. He said. And I
Well,
can't
no,
remember what it was.
but yeah, I rolled up because he gave me one of these
Oh, that's
beautiful
this one
purple
here.
buds.
You probably rolled that.
I rolled two of them.
Did you?
I rolled two. I smoked one.
Dude, yeah, there
But
was
this
a
is the
different
same
one,
stuff.
yes.
This is just like twice as much. See that?
It is.
It is just about twice as much. There.
You would never get a government store joint like that.
Don't say never, Glenn.
Oh no, I've seen
Because
their
I'm on a
joints.
campaign to change government stores to be in the proper type of legalization.
Yeah.
If Canada is going to legalize weed, they need to do it the right way because we're the ones who've always been showing the whole world how to do things with weed.
Yeah.
And so Canada needs to be the example, and we cannot rest as Canadians until we have a legalization that
Fair for
includes
everybody.
nice big fatties
Yeah.
of beautiful purpley crystally bud that you can get for like maybe 50 cents. Concentrates, of course, cost a little more, because they got to go through processes and expensive equipment and knowledgeable people who know what they're doing. But many of you have smell-o-vision. Remember that came out back in the 70s there? We had, I think it was April 1st.
Yeah. Oh,
April 1st, you could smell things through your radio at that point.
Oh, really?
CKNW did that. They never talked about it anymore after noon that day, though. I don't know what happened there, but up until noon, you could smell things on your. So if you happen to have smell, maybe you don't know. It's not April 1st, but maybe you should be smelling your phone or TV right now and see if you can smell this. Because if you could actually smell that, wow! I'll tell you. Watch this.
It's so nice.
Woo!
It's not poopy.
Woo!
Even though it's unicorn poop.
Wow!
I know.
That's good stuff. And you can find that at Cannabis Day.
Yeah.
Along with probably some of these, maybe I'll even bring a couple of these with me on Cannabis Day. And other things, because there's going to be all kinds of fantastic cannabis vendors there.
Maybe some hash rosins.
Oh, there'll be everything you can imagine.
How about some shatter?
Because that's one of the beautiful things about Cannabis Day. It's that other day that's a lot like 420.
Yep.
Where just all these great people come out with all these great products and they put them out on display. It's fantastic.
And the medical patients get together and do a protest.
Well, for sure, Cannabis Day is a protest. Always has been.
Yeah.
Hopefully won't always have to be. We're on a mission, Hopefully. It's not a very difficult mission, really, although we're up against hugely powerful forces. But all we want is to be able to have farmers bring cannabis to market without government restrictions and regulations that are unnecessary, that raise the price. And then let the marketplace decide on how much cannabis can be sold for. And there will be some people that will want to buy expensive cannabis, and there will be some people that set up stores to sell expensive cannabis, and that's a wonderful thing. The better, the better. Mm-hmm. The more experienced the grower, the more expensive the equipment used, the more wages paid to the best trimmers, and all the attention to detail that happens when people want to spend money, time, and energy growing the very best cannabis, and then they want to get a good dollar for it, because just like art, you can't put a price on art, because who knows what it means to some person or what it means to another person. So when you make a piece of art, if in your mind has great value because you know you were inspired from something from another realm to make this amazing thing, and maybe most people don't see it, but some people do it. You can put whatever price you want on that. And if somebody comes along and they think that's art and they love it and they're willing to pay that price, then you get to sell it for that. And that's all wonderful. That's just human beings trading amongst themselves. One guy's got something the other person wants, and he's got a price that they agree on, and blah. Perfectly good. Just commerce. Happens all the time. Very necessary thing in our world. Don't need to have government interference in commerce unless there's problems. If there's problems, then there are things that we would like government to do to just protect us from the problems. Usually it's just put a little blurb on there about, hey, if you use this product the wrong way, you could get hurt. That's about all we need. But yeah, so in a world where people can bring to market cannabis in whatever form they want and price it at whatever way they want, and there's no government interference in that, we would have farmers bringing good quality cannabis to market for the same kinds of prices as farmers bring anything else to market for. We'd be paying $6.99 for a pound of some half-decent cannabis, probably not clipped, of course, not cured, of course, just cut fresh from a tree and bundled together like carrots and put out there, and, it's cheap. Is there some reason that can't happen? Is there any justification for that not happening? Does there need to be special packaging for cannabis? Is it dangerous in some way? You have to keep it out of reach of children? Tomato skin has pretty poisonous stuff in it, and if kids eat too much tomatoes, it could be harmful for them. Even potatoes. I love raw potatoes. I don't know if anybody else likes raw potatoes, but I like them raw. A little bit of salt is good. It only takes about a dozen raw potatoes in one sitting to kill about 50% of an average weight human being. Should we put them in special packages and keep them out of reach of children? Do we even need to put signs up at the grocery store warning about how a dozen raw potatoes could kill you? Or eating too many tomatoes can cause migraines and cause other health problems? Do we need to do that? Probably not. Because we all kind of understand that. And we'd all kind of understand cannabis too, if it was in the marketplace and we knew what its potential was. Anyway, I'm just trying to get there, that's all. Just trying to get there. That's why I take the time to have this show. That's why I'm doing the Cannabis Substitution Program and trying to get low barrier access community cannabis stores. Because these are important issues in our world. That if there's a block, if governments are involved in corruption, especially if that's on a massive scale, that's hurting large amounts of people in profound ways, well, we have an obligation as citizens of Canada or whatever country you're in, if your governments are corrupt and people are being harmed in profound ways, you have an obligation to try to do something about that. Don't necessarily need to be a martyr. Probably dangerous to go put your name and face on a lot of different things in a lot of different countries if you're trying to correct things from corrupt, evil, well-leveraged, unethical people. So, do it smart, but do it. Do something. Don't be part of the problem by just going along and allowing it all to exist without some backlash against it. Mumble with your friends and neighbors about how not right it is. Do something to come up with a little meme or a little cartoon or a little saying or a little something. I'm talking about seriously oppressed people right now who have a very dangerous time in speaking out against the corrupt powers that be. For those of us that live in less oppressed countries, we can be a little more brave, and but still need to be careful. But we all need to do something because it's going the wrong direction that is the big fear. That if the corporate ethics, the business ethics take root and are allowed to be the guiding force of public policy, then we will all be taken advantage of, exploited, turned into basic slaves, and used for all of the energy that we have and all the money that we have that can be extracted out of us by the corporate agenda, which is to maximize their own profits at the expense of whatever it is that they're using to do that. We are just a resource, and they have no problem using up and throwing away this resource once they're finished with it. That's not who should be running government. Governments need to be run by people who will protect us against those types of ethics. There we go. I'm repeating myself.
So you said the RV's back.
The RV is back.
It is. And you got
We're gonna go see it.
You're gonna go see it?
We are.
All right.
We're gonna get there.
You want to tell them how you
I'm
got
not done
back?
with Cannabis Day.
You're not done. Oh, yeah, you
Yeah.
were. Well, you were.
Like I say, we could just mention that it's happening and move on, but I want to talk about it for a while.
Park, yeah.
Well, Thornton Park is where we're having our event there. I'm going to be a big part of that here in Vancouver. Please come down and enjoy a wonderful vibe that is Thornton Park. We have really come to love the vibe that's there. We ignore the goose poop, which is there also, and we work around it. It's the only drawback, really. Otherwise, it's just a fantastically beautiful space that has a whole bunch of shade trees that on a hot July 1st day is so important to an event. And the people that gather there just put out this great vibe because they're feeling it from the moment they arrive, and and get a sense of it. They all start adding to it, and pretty soon you got like a huge group of people all contributing to this great vibe. And it's right by the SkyTrain station. It's right by the Main Street passes right by. The train station is right there, so there's a lot of people.
Science World one, right?
And Science World is there as well.
Yeah.
So, it's a great day to come out and commune with fellow like-minded people and to take advantage of accessing fantastic cannabis that'll be there for sure.
12 o'clock start?
12 o'clock, high noon in Vancouver is when we usually kick it off. We typically are all set up by 10 o'clock, so you can get there early. There's typically some music playing by around 10 o'clock as well. There will be entertainment during the day. There will be speeches during the day. And I'm sure there'll be lots of giveaways of different things, which always happens at these events as well. Come on down, wear a costume if you want. I'm not giving you a prize for it, but I might give you a free joint if I like it.
That was a big
Cannabis.ca will be there.
Yes.
So far, one of the main sponsors of the event.
Oh, thank you.
Cannabis.ca is a fantastic resource for people to be able to find cannabis-friendly friends of different levels, if you know what I mean. You can find someone just to smoke and talk to, or you can find someone to smoke with. And fall in love with.
Yeah. We just call it fall in love.
Well, we all love everybody, but we're talking like the real deal here.
Love.
I'm sure there's been a few hot dogs and donuts passing through each other through Cannabis.ca, if you know what I mean, and you probably do.
There you go. See, Cannabis.ca.
It's a wonderful service.
There you go.
It can help you find weed in a world where the government stores aren't doing it for you.
Yeah.
Cannabis.ca. Hook you up with other like-minded people.
Well,
that's a big joint.
That's a nice joint, eh?
That's too big a joint for a guy like me.
Okay, I'll share it with you.
You shrink when you get older. And it's supposed to shrink the amount of food you eat, shrink the amount of sleep you need, shrink the amount of weed you smoke. It's all about shrinking.
Who said that?
I just said that. I just made it up right now.
I think you're falling in line with shrinkflation right now there. You got the old shrink on the head there.
I'm turning into
shrink on the mind.
Turning into a minimalist now. Do I look like a minimalist to you? There's stuff all around me here.
It's affecting Neil Magnuson.
I'm changing my life, though. I've decided it's time to grow up.
Yeah.
I turned 65 this year.
You did.
I'm cutting out candy now.
You're cutting out candy?
Well, not completely.
Hey, yes, moderation. I don't think we have to
moderation
cut
is
out
the key.
Everything. Moderation is the key, yes.
I've been a bit of an extremist when it comes to my own particular sugar intake.
Mm-hmm.
Got addicted early to that. It wasn't my fault.
Mm-hmm.
But, I could have taken control of the reins earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Or could I? Or have I?
You could have.
I don't know. I have. It's been 3 months now.
Yeah.
3 months of a considerable less amount of candies and cookies and
that's
chocolate.
Good. That's good. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I do more popcorn.
And also 3 months now since I don't know why I did these things at the same time. Maybe I just turned 65 and grew up. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm growing up either.
Maybe the body said that's
But
enough.
I bought myself a Magic Bullet smoothie maker.
I had one too. I got one for Christmas.
And without fail, every single day since I've got it, which is probably about 3 months now, I put together some strawberries and grapes and blueberries and bananas and spinach and hemp hearts and cannabis leaves.
Yep.
And I have a smoothie every day.
Every morning.
Every morning.
Wow.
I'm going to never stop doing that now.
I'm going to start this summer when we start having blueberries and stuff.
Let's back up a minute.
Okay.
So you don't think you shrink things when you get older?
I don't know.
The amount of hair you have lessens.
Well,
the amount of brain cells you have lessens.
No.
People get the physical body short.
10% of our brains. There's not even 90% in there to still grow
That's
with.
a myth.
Is it?
Uh-huh.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, why do you think
There's a lot more we can do with our brains.
Why
but
do you
but the
think
10%
that?
thing is a myth.
Oh,
look into that. We have Google now. Just spend a little time on Google, you'll find out.
Google.
It's not accurate to say we only use 10%
I
of our
Googled
brains.
my medical
It is
conditions.
accurate to say most people could use a lot more of the brains that they have. Or could they? And I say or could they because we're kind of limited by our experience and by our pre-genetic dispositions on things. And some of us can do things easier than other people can do things. It wasn't easy for me to give up sugar. I haven't completely given up sugar.
Yeah.
But
less sugar.
to do less sugar started 20 years ago for me.
Yeah.
I was 45.
Okay.
I was 45 and I was getting a bit of a gut. I don't have it anymore. It's not there. I look down, it's not there. I think I'm doing fine. But I had a bit of a gut going on.
Yeah.
I was noticing that I was not recovering from working quickly like I would normally. I was noticing that some of my abilities to not eat for a couple days at a time or other things that I had built up on purpose, endurance things to condition myself in case a world war happened or I got stranded out in the wilderness or I don't know what I'm preparing for, but I was prepared for it and I started to notice that I was losing some of that edge.
Yeah.
And so I cut back on a whole bunch of stuff. I was eating a Haagen-Dazs container or two every day. I was having half a dozen of these Safeway cakes that they make, these individual little
Mine
cakes.
was the McCain cakes, the deep
you
delicious.
like those ones? I had some of those.
Oh, I could eat a whole one of those easily. But if that's all I could afford that day, that was something.
I worked hard. I was a carpenter and a restoration guy.
I
had a good job. I could afford it. And you know what actually happened to me, Glenn, is that my dad, bless his heart, he was doing the best he could with what he knew and what he believed. But for me, my experience with my dad is that he had lots of money. And he bought himself all the nice things that he wanted. He didn't deny himself very much. And ice cream was part of that.
Yeah.
He didn't eat good at all.
Yeah.
As far as good food went. My dad ate pretty lousy, greasy, repetitive, the same mashed potatoes every night, sausages on Thursdays, way overcooked pork chops on Fridays. Saturday in the summertime was always hamburger night. Not great food.
Yeah.
But he'd have his ice cream, he'd have his cake, he'd have his cookies, and he wasn't big on sharing.
Oh, yeah.
Not because he wasn't big on sharing, just that. And I talked to my dad about this. As an adult later on, we actually got to know each other really well in a couple of years before he passed on. I moved in with him and lived with him and spent every day with him. And he wanted to teach me the value of $1 that he had learned by going through the Depression.
Yeah.
And he felt like if he denied me the things that he was denied because they didn't have the money for it, then I would also have that appreciation for $1. And it really didn't do that for me at all.
No,
because it was like as soon as I can afford it, I'm not saying no to myself, and I'm going to have everything that I want, and I want a lot more ice cream, cake, and cookies than the average person because my dad wouldn't let me have it hardly ever. See, he would eat it right in front of me every night. Trying to teach me the value of $1.
If the Depression was still happening while you were growing up at that time, then it would have been easier to teach you that because the situation called for it. Not.
But I was gaining my awareness in the mid '60s. Born in 1957.
Yes. So.
And my dad had a nice car and a nice stereo, and he could have ice cream every night, and there was no depression going on where you had to really ration how much food you were giving out to the 12 kids sitting at the table in Saskatchewan there.
Yeah.
You know, and no seconds going on. And so, so it was a different world. And so it didn't have the same effect on me having my dad just say, no, you can't have ice cream. I'm eating it because I worked hard for it. And if you work hard for it, then you can get some too.
Ice cream too, yeah, right.
You know?
Anyways, like you heard that a lot.
Anyways, Cannabis Day at Thornton Park should be a blast. It's coming up real soon. It's on a Friday.
July the 1st.
I hope that there's going to be Cannabis Days all over the world, because that's a great day to celebrate cannabis and everything about cannabis. One day,
we're family friendly.
Family friendly, of course. Ours are always family friendly events. We encourage the vendors not to sell cannabis to people that are obviously underage.
Yeah.
Out of respect for parents, I think that's the right thing to do. Although it would be nice if young people that had grown beyond that age of control, really. The Ledane Commission in Canada said it really well. Actually, they spent a lot of time on that. And they recognize that by the time a young person is 16, it's hard to put ages on things because every family structure is different and every individual is different. But pretty much by the time a young person has turned 16 years of age, they are prepared to defy the wishes of their parents. And if they have decided that they're going to try to use cannabis, then they're going to do that, and they will find a source for it. And what the Ledane Commission recognized is that we really don't want our young people to be accessing cannabis behind some telephone pole down a back alley or in the back forest somewhere, or some guy's basement suite. You don't want your 16-year-old daughter or son to be put in a position where they can be exploited in ways that can happen like that. It would be best to have them be able to access it from a retail location where there's some thought given to education of the young person with respect to that particular path of experimenting with different things like cannabis, which is what young people do. Young people by 16 are deciding that they want to try alcohol. They've already had experience with pharmaceutical drugs in most cases. They want to have some of these experiences that other people have that is all around them and is glorified on television and through movies and other things like that. So for a young person of 16 years of age to be deciding that they're going to start to find out about these things is completely normal and natural, and in fact trying to prevent that from happening only makes it worse. Kind of like what you do to a kid who would like some ice cream but can't have any because you want to teach them the benefit of $1 and you're going to eat it in front of them. So these things are in our society. They are glorified and talked about, and it's kind of a rite of passage. It's a coming of age experience for people, and so they are going to do that. And how do you want them doing it? As a responsible parents and as a responsible society, we want to keep our young people as safe and educated as we can. And so some sort of a retail outlet of people that could be held accountable, people that would be scrutinized to some degree, that would care to some degree about the young people that they're helping, is a much better way to go than some pervert in a basement suite that thinks that he can get his rocks off because some young person doesn't have money, but they want some of what he has. So enough said on that. Have a Cannabis Day, July 1st, wherever you are in the world. Talk about it, post about it, tell me about it. We want to make Cannabis Day a worldwide, global phenomena, just like 420, because one cannabis holiday a year is not enough for the world.
Every day can be Cannabis Day.
And we want, I wouldn't pick this necessarily, although I might, but we didn't pick this. It just is what is. Yeah. Canada has a place in the world where we are looked to for social justice issues, for human ethics issues, and for cannabis issues. That we are the ones who are polite and are patient and are tolerant and have the best weed in the world.
Damn right.
Well, then, there's other good weed in the world. I'm not putting down anybody else's weed in the world. There's, lots of it. I'm not going to start naming names, but there's lots of great weed in the world. But BC, British Columbia, Canada, got itself a reputation for having the best growers, growing the best bud, indoors anyway, in the world. Yeah. So we have these things, and we're in that position, And I take that personally as a Canadian, and as a responsible Canadian who's now raised my family and has time to recognize my obligations and responsibilities as a Canadian and as a human being. And as a Canadian human being, I recognize our responsibility in helping the rest of the world come to terms with social justice issues, issues of patience, politeness, and tolerance, but issues to do with cannabis and how to regulate cannabis properly. And after 5 years of experience here on the downtown east side, providing low barrier access to the real needy people where cannabis is a profound substance that helps them so much in their life with their sleep issues, with their nutrition issues, with their overall well-being, their mood, their pain issues. All of these things are so powerful for the people that have migrated into this area of the downtown east side of Vancouver, Canada, that I need to take that responsibility seriously and help as best I can to get what we need here, which is low barrier access community cannabis stores that have affordable cannabis in all of its different forms, and especially in high-dose edibles for those people struggling with addiction and for those people struggling with chronic pain, sleep issues, other health issues. They need high-dose edibles that are easily accessible and very affordable, and that's easy enough to do. It can be done, and the only reason it's not being done is because of government interference. And what should be happening is government support in making sure that easy access to affordable cannabis, especially high-dose edibles, is a real thing and available in all the communities that need it. And when we get that, then we're willing to say to the rest of the world, here's how you legalize cannabis. This is the right way to do it. And then we can let cannabis do what it's going to do around the world.
Save lives.
Save lives.
Save lives.
So,
change people's lives.
It is that time.
Gonna go out there?
We're going to go out there.
All right.
All right.
Got this.
So, well, just hang on for a sec, because going out there requires just a little introduction. I feel it does anyway. For many people, it doesn't.
You can still do the introduction.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Cannabis Substitution Program is a response to the public health crisis of overdose deaths due to a poisoned drug supply. And it began over 5 years ago. 5 years ago, early February, we started handing out high-dose edibles to people with an association with VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users. We continued to do that first year once a week, second 2.5 years of twice a week, and got the city on board, got doctors and professors to support us, all the other harm reduction groups, and so that led to us in good faith renting a storefront and providing low barrier access that included the sale of cannabis at low cost, along with the no cost cannabis that we had been providing to the members that had been accessing through VANDU. But the city, rather than support us the way they said they would, decided we had to first get Health Canada on board, federal government, and that has turned into be quite the chore. It's been about 20 months now since we applied to the federal government under an emergency basis for a temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act to allow us to continue what we had been demonstrating for years was very, very successful in helping people escape addiction and save their life. And that didn't happen, and neither has our licenses. And now, I mentioned earlier in the show, their intent is to deny our application. They've given us until September 6th to respond to their intent. And the reasons are because we're not paying them money for their cannabis that would come all from them, and we're going to allow people to access it who don't have a doctor saying it's okay for them to try to use high-dose edibles to get off of hard drugs. We think we can respond correctly to that. We've gotten dozens and dozens of letters that speak to those issues that we'll be supplying them with. We've got a petition and an online petition coming right up that will help to identify properly what the issue is and persuade Health Canada what they need to do, which is to allow us to be the ones to determine regulations for providing cannabis to people during this healthcare crisis, because we're the ones that have the actual experience on the front lines of doing that and recognizing what works for people. And if we can't be the ones dictating those regulations, we should at least be involved in crafting them, and they should come and talk to us about that. So, meanwhile, not getting them to support us meant that even though we moved into the storefront in good faith and started operating a store along with the program, the not getting a license from the city meant that we were evicted due to the landlord's fears of having his property seized. And we moved right away the next day into an RV that's been parked out front. And that's been going on for, let's see. We moved into the RV 1st of November 2 years ago coming up. So, we're about 18, 19 months into the RV. We did have it seized recently by the VPD. We don't know why, and we don't know why they gave it back, even after charging us with trafficking and seizing thousands of dollars worth of medicine that was designated for the people in the neighborhood here. It's atrocious what they've done in that respect. But they did give us our RV back. They have not told me to stop doing what we're doing. I've told them on several occasions since that we cannot and will not stop doing what we're doing to prevent the risk to the lives of the people that have come to be friends of ours through membership here and through what we're doing. And so we're going to continue until until they get it right, and there is no other option than that. Until we're allowed to do it, we're going to do it because we have to do it, because people would die if we don't do it, and I won't stand for that. If they are going to stop me, it'll have to be by a cage, because I refuse to stop any other way. I couldn't. Anyway, now we can go outside and see the RV and meet the crew and see what's going on out there.
Now I'm going to do a quick strand around here. There we go. There you go.
We don't have a Neil today. We love a Neil, and he's so necessary to this show. But we're doing it without him because he's on a little holiday.
Cameraman, production.
Glenn is a man of many skills. So here we are. It's been a beautiful day in Vancouver.
Oh, it's been nice,
a fantastic day.
You guys actually had sun.
It's not too hot, but there's been certainly no precipitation at all. The streets are quiet, the streets are clean, you can see. Unlike what it's like one block over that way, we'll give a little quick glimpse down the lane. It's not too bad today.
Not too bad today, yeah.
There's still a number of people that are there that are, struggling with their life.
Mm-hmm.
But we're here as a way to escape that street over there, and as a means to escape not just the physical area, but the substances that have trapped people there, because the high-dose edibles can really help people and do well for them. How are you? You want to be on Pot TV? No, thanks. You're good? All right. We're going to keep you out of the frame.
I do support what you're doing. I think that as a scientist, I do believe that providing cannabinoids instead of opioids is an opportunity for people to eat better and sleep better.
We were just talking about that.
Transitioning. Just as it is for cancer patients and Alzheimer's patients and things like that, where medications, prescription medications kind of restrict your diet. And so having the cannabinoids there at an affordable price, since you've already spent a cajillion dollars on your prescription medication, now you need something to go to sleep with. And this is where this comes in handy. And so many people whose lives are changed because of this project. And a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, and our big thing is this show is all about our quest to have a low barrier access store for people to walk into instead of being, out on the side of the road here on an RV. The federal government needs to recognize exactly what you said, that this is profoundly helping people that really need help at a time when there's a public health crisis going on. For us to be waiting almost 2 years for them to decide that we can't do it is just ludicrous.
And in this day and age, we do remember those days of the ODs where they started coming up with methadone clinics and they started coming up with safe injection sites.
Supervised.
Now, can you tell me how a safe injection site differs from the situation that we're trying to provide with actually less risk?
Oh, for sure. This is the real safe supply here. And I correct you on safe injection.
Yeah.
We were very careful at the beginning of those sites to make sure that it was supervised. And to make that clear, because there is really no such thing as a safe injection.
Absolutely.
Whether it's done in a hospital by a doctor with a nurse right there, if you're inserting into a blood vein something coming out of a needle, you're at risk.
One air beacon and you're done.
That's it. So safer for sure to have supervision. In fact, that's the real point, is with supervision, usually there's no fatal outcome with those.
Because of intervention.
Because they can intervene. And in fact, there's never been a fatal overdose within the supervised injection site since its inception all those years ago, because there's somebody right there ready to intervene if that should happen. But you're absolutely right. I mean, they come up with all these other harm reduction options, but the best one that should be in the toolbox is the one that really they fight against and use tax dollars to try to prevent. I don't understand it at all. Health Canada has said that because we're providing to people, or we want to provide to people that won't have a doctor allowing that they're not going to let us do this. But you know, regular people in mainstream can't find a doctor these days. And of the ones you can find, there's only 5% that will even talk about cannabis. So, and there's so many people that are not visible addicts that would never join a program, they won't even go to their doctor and say, hey, I'm addicted, even though the doctor might be the one that put them on those pills in the first place. Sometimes that's exactly why they don't want to go back to the doctor. They don't want to admit that they couldn't quit. So those people cannot be abandoned by Health Canada to die of fentanyl and a poison drug supply because they can't get cannabis. This is ludicrous.
And you make an interesting point about the doctors too, because if I'm a professional physician and I get kickbacks for whatever kind of brand name prescription drug that I'm promoting, because they've given me some sort of big bonus if I write so many prescriptions, they don't have that for cannabis. Cannabis still has a stigma, and so they're thinking about reputation and all those kinds of factors.
Because there's a monetary difference there, it makes it really easy for them to find that as an excuse.
Exactly.
You know, and because they can justify it, and I still get to go on my cruise, you know.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, it's...
paid for by Big Pharma.
Yeah, paid for by Big Pharma and supported by government, you know, in their policies as well.
And the government, I wonder, so this is taxed, all of these cannabis shops that are in Canada, you pay taxes on. And I'm curious to know where that big, huge, giant surplus of taxes gone, because it certainly hasn't gone back to people.
Well, it's gone to enforcement, for one thing. The federal government, they take $1 per gram on everything that's sold in Canada. That's $448 a pound. That's a lot of money. And that, of course, makes that's the base starting price. Then it goes to other provinces where they put their taxes on there. They process it and package it. Those are expensive contracts that they've got with packaging companies and things like that. So by the time it gets to the consumer, it's not affordable in this neighborhood. It's not affordable for somebody who's able to go down the street, not this street as much as that street, and for $5 get themselves a sleeve of down, or some side. It's easy and cheap to get the hard drugs here. It needs to be just as easy and just as cheap to get cannabis. And if the high dose edibles were available and people understood that if they do it right, don't eat too much because that'll scare you off of doing it. But if they start low, go slow, find the right dose, they can get through withdrawal. They can then use cannabis instead of these other hard drugs that make it so they can't shit properly, they can't eat properly, they can't sleep properly, and all the other things that come with it.
And that's where we need the medical community to come in and justify what we're saying, because we know the medical community knows this. It's just not mainstream. It's not, maybe it's not politically correct.
The nurses in this area know it, you know.
Absolutely.
I don't know about doctors in their ivory towers in other parts of the community, but certainly the healthcare professionals in this area understand the value of cannabis.
Well, me standing here for about 15 to 20 minutes today alone, I noticed a lot of people getting help and very surprised, but the gratitude and the gratefulness that you see from the people that are coming here. Thank you for being here. So
every day, all day.
And seeing the posts even by these folks here, it's heartwarming to see that we know we're doing the right thing. Word's going to get out. It's already.
We just needed to get to the federal government. Everybody else is kind of on board with us. The VPD aren't hassling us after raiding us. They've left us alone. They know we're back. We haven't stopped. So we just need the federal government. We just need the federal government.
That's it.
Federal government, if you're watching, please come down and see us if you have to, or just listen to what we're saying, read the letters that we're submitting to you. And for everybody else, please write a letter, make a phone call, send an email. Your representative, Health Canada, Federal Health Minister, Trudeau himself.
if you've lost friends and family to the opioid crisis, we need you. Come aboard.
Yeah, for sure. And that's who does support us, and that's why we have so much support, is because it has touched so many people. All right, well, let's go see what's going on inside.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we're elated
All right.
that we're not in the tent anymore, although
Yeah,
we
I know.
like the tent idea, and we're going to be using it on the hot days. But we're really, really excited that we have the RV back. We cleaned it up. Well,
Yeah, I know. I was wondering if it looked cleaner.
So what's going on here?
I've had 35 people come to the CSP today. That's a lot.
So far today, 35 people have come to access the CSP.
Wow.
And what are you offering them?
Well, my tray is not so healthy today. Very well.
Oh,
We do have
that's
things,
because of
and
the
we
raid,
always
right?
I have 100 milligram cookies from Joe Pepper.
No, those are more
Nice.
than that.
Are they?
Oh, yes, they are.
Oh.
I know what I gave her to make with those, and
Okay.
Joe and I talked about it, and yeah, those are closer to 200.
Okay.
Whoa.
So, you know,
I got pills.
you can put them out at 150, but let people know that they're strong.
I got some 50 milligram pills.
Thanks to Dirty Dave.
And I've given away lots of pills today.
Yeah, eh?
A lot more pills than usual.
People like the pills. They work really, really well.
And
Dave's
no
pills are
sugar.
I
particularly
got the
strong.
100s. These are the darker ones. These are the 100 milligram pills.
Yeah.
They're very strong. They're more than 100 milligrams, Dave said. What do I have?
Yeah, Dave's are kind of like real milligrams, and most other
yeah.
people's are like what they wish they were.
I personally use Dave's
have
100
some
milligrams.
I have some cream.
Beautiful.
Yes. Very nice. 20 milligrams of THC.
He's got more than he let on. Because we got gummies.
I got
We got the Green Wilderness gummies.
These
Nice.
are 2 in a package, 50 milligrams each, so that's 100 milligrams for a package. And they're pretty good. Very good.
Right.
Very nice.
And then we got other gummies. We got the Gorilla Ganja gummies.
Yeah.
Gorilla Ganja have been so good to us for so long. They send us.
Sativa.
So that's a
Pure
sativa.
80 milligrams, pure sativa. I got sativa mango, half and half. There's 40 milligrams of THC and 40 milligrams of CBD. Very popular. Very popular. I got.
No. I just turned off the Wi-Fi.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah,
Sorry about that,
That's the
folks.
full CBD one.
that's the full
Yeah.
CBD.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of people like that as well.
They love that one. And what else do I got? That's all I've got right
Tastes
now.
great too.
We have raspberry full indica, but it's inside. I just ran out seconds ago.
I see people really like that. That is the
Yeah.
most popular one. That's the full-on THC 80 milligram.
That's about it.
And that's it.
That's
All
it
right.
today.
Well, very good, Andrew. We'll see
And
you
we need
inside.
lots more donations, people. Come on.
Always
down.
need more donations. Hard
Very
to
nice.
sustain what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you.
Now we're almost ready to go see at the window there. See,
Got a bit of a person there.
what Miss Jennifer's doing. You can check Jen's blog out. She'll post it to the CSP Facebook page. She posts a blog every day about what happened at the shop here, and you know, some of the encounters that we've had, and you know, her opinion on some things.
There's another person waiting behind. Yeah. Here's a lineup. You are definitely helping people every day.
Oh, we have a lineup, do we? Well, okay, we'll do it from inside the RV.
All right. Okay. You gonna go inside? Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good one.
Ah, well, so here we are back in the RV. This is
Yeah, I
so
haven't
awesome.
sat here for a while.
Oh man, there's a real sense of security that's in here, even though the cops did come and surround us and raid us.
It's a lot better than the tent.
It just feels more secure than the tent.
Yeah.
We do like the way the tent feels with respect to being open to the public, and it feels more welcoming and you know, that for people. But there is something nice about the RV. It's been our home for a long time, and it does feel comfortable. How do you guys feel about that?
Sounds good.
So
Sounds
you
good
happy to be back in the RV?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
What we have here, what I was going to show you at the window, is there's 2 other edibles that are part of the CSP program as well. She's busy with a customer.
Okay.
And that's the muffins there. George, if you could grab that. Thank you. And I saw cookies somewhere, didn't I, Andrew? Yeah, right there below. So we got these muffins here. They're delish.
John,
Oh my goodness, they are so good. But they're not quite as good as these.
I've heard about these cookies.
Which are his cookies.
Cookie Monster.
No, these are not the Cookie Monster. This is
I'm
John.
a Cookie Monster.
We have Cookie Monster cookies handy.
Isabel said, Dad, where are all the cookies? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a Cookie Monster. There you go.
We get
And
bags and bags of these from Michael.
Wow.
Michael the Cookie Monster. There's more than one Cookie Monster. You're Glenn the Cookie Monster.
I just like cookies,
He's Michael the Cookie. He likes making cookies. I don't know if he eats his own cookies or not.
I don't know.
But those things we also put out usually from the side window, although they can be also included in the CSP packages for people. But
They smell good.
oh, they are so
man.
good. These ones are 30 milligrams. The
Cookie
little
alarm.
muffins are 100 milligrams. So people have that range to choose from as well, and it really helps them. Jen's back. How you doing? Point it over there.
Oh, yeah, well, this thing is, I guess I can go that way. Hey, Jen. I didn't want to knock over those bong water.
Nice
Ball is hanging in midair.
Hits from the bong.
Hits from the bong.
How do you feel about having the RV back?
It's good.
Look at the smile on
On
her
the hot
face.
days, it'll be good to still be outside to have that option. But yeah, rainy days, it'll be good to be able to hunker down in here.
There were things to like about the tent,
There's good things about both. Yeah,
but
there's
the
pros
wind
and
was
cons
the
to
wind
both.
and the
No, we
rain.
almost blew away a few times.
Yeah, and the rain wasn't fun.
Felt like we were sailing on the salty seas.
It was cold. Right up until the last day we were in it, we had the heater.
Yeah.
So busy again.
Yeah, that's what you're
It's
doing.
a
Yeah.
pretty busy place there. So anyway, that's what's going on. We got the RV back. We are really famous here for the $1 gram. Andrew, could you throw me a $1 bag there, or $5 bag rather?
Yeah, for $5 you get. There's a $1.
So this is $1.
Yeah, you just dropped one.
I know.
Okay.
That's $1.
And for $5,
For $5.
you get all
You
that.
get that. You can only a person can only buy one of those per day here.
Yes.
We have a 5-gram limit on the $1 weed. This is chemo. We've changed to chemo today. We had Rockstar going on for the last couple of weeks before that. Really nice, big, sticky, dense buds. So we've got somewhat affordable cannabis. People are really happy with the $5 bag because they say that in the morning they wake up, they've still got a little bit of money and they still got a little bit of weed, and that never happened to them before.
Yeah, breakfast and
They'd spend
and
everything they
smoke.
had, get a little bit of weed and then smoke it all, and and the next day they would wake up and not have that. So it's really, really helping people. We are definitely the kings of the $1 gram. We've had it consistently since last November, and we plan to continue to have it.
Yeah.
Although we do put out a lot of it, it's a very, very popular item. It's a little bit hard to keep up with, but so far so good, and I plan to make sure that we have that for people all the time. It has become so necessary for them.
Not called Bob.
No, it's not bottom of the bag. It's not shake. It's not poorly flushed.
No.
It's not
No.
poorly cured.
It's low barrier access.
It's low barrier access
That's
to
what it
cannabis
is. Yeah.
in one of its finer forms. We don't want to put out anything that isn't quality, and for the people that can only afford $1, we have, like George showed you right away, the $1 grams made up. You would think that we wouldn't have any grams made up for $1 if we got a $5 bag, of 5 grams. But there are people that come here, they literally can only afford 1 gram. There's people that come here and they got, I've only got 80 cents, we don't take their 80 cents. If they have less than $1, we don't take their less than $1. We leave it with them and give them a joint and give them a muffin and give them the $1 gram bag if that's what they wanted. Because those are the people we're here to help, and that needs to be the focus of this. So we got our previous guest giving us the peace sign. I guess she's got to go. She was excellent.
Yeah.
She's obviously working in the sciences and she's in the medical healthcare profession, and had some good insights about the situation here. And that's what we need, is for Health Canada to come and send some of their people here to have an unbiased look at what's going on, with an effort not to protect financial interests of LPs and insiders, but to actually protect the people that need protection, the people that are vulnerable, that are down here, that are in trouble. And then we can get some proper regulations and get some proper access to cannabis and use it as the tool that it needs to be down here, where there's, if not low barrier access stores all over the place, in a place like the downtown east side, there would at least be 4 or 5 pop-up tents, so that people on their walk through the neighborhood will be able to easily access cannabis high-dose edibles and not have to go back to the other street dealers and the other street drugs that are here to solve their issues, which is exactly what people told us when we were raided. It was that, what am I going to do? Am I going to have to go back and start using heroin to get a good night's sleep now? Am I going to have to use cocaine to deal with my issues? And many other comments like that we got here. So this needs to be happening here. Anyway, that's the first episode of our 3rd season. We're off and running. We have our goals. We've got some things in place that have improved since the 2nd season, with having the RV back in place, with having maybe a little more of an understanding with the VPD about what it is that we're doing here. Maybe they seized the RV just to check and make sure that we were only involved with cannabis and that we were who we said we were. But we are feeling like we've got some momentum. The letters that we received are very powerful as well. If Health Canada takes the time to read them, or someone at Health Canada takes the time to read those letters, I think that could make a big difference. The petition, all happening as a result of the final end of last season, where Health Canada was intent on denying our license, and the VPD raided us, gave us quite a good cliffhanger to end the season with. And now with having all of this stuff in place, as far as the petition and the letters and the new perhaps agreement, a non-verbal agreement with the VPD, with all these other people that had been motivated to act on our behalf, that have sent letters and done all those things, I think we're set for a 3rd season that could be the culmination of our desperate efforts to get low barrier access cannabis, and to get a form of legalization that includes low barrier access that would be acceptable to the growers, the sellers, and the consumers of cannabis worldwide. That's our goal. Help us if you can. We need all the help we can get. Other cannabis substitution programs are happening out there. They need donations as well. William Hicks in London, Ontario, had about 150 people today. They're going to have to move locations there. There's been some complications, so support them if you can. They could use some more volunteers. They could use some more donation. William's has been doing a great job there since Mary left. Mary, she was our head baker. She left to help she didn't help to start a cannabis substitution program in London, Ontario. That's just something that had to be done if she was there. And she did that, and now she's moved on to Winnipeg. Some people have stepped forward to help her. She's had some extremely bad feet issues that prevented her from doing her program there in Winnipeg.
But
the need is huge, but thanks to a natural remedy concoction that was provided to her, she's on the mend, and she's also, because of her difficulties, has had some people step forward, which is what happens when these programs get into difficulties, is people decide that it's important, and they're going to take some ownership of it as well. So all the best to Mary in Winnipeg with her program there, and she's going to need more donations right away as well there when that gets back up and going, and I imagine that'll be pretty quick as well. Chris Backer in Halifax with the East Coast Cannabis Substitution Program. I've been going for 2 years there plus, and doing an amazing job of helping out his community with the long lineups once a week there, and giving out care packs. So support Chris and William and Mary, and just do your part to help get low barrier access cannabis stores wherever you are in the world. That's what people need. That's what society needs. That's what the world needs. The world would be much better off with low barrier access community cannabis stores, and you can be part of that amazing team of people doing such fulfilling work in making the world a better place through this vehicle of doing that. So thanks for watching. Thanks for all your support and for all that you're going to do in the future. Be kind to each other, be kind to yourself, love everyone, because love is the answer to just about every question we have as a peoples here. And most important, as you do all of that, make sure you're having as much fun as you can, and we'll see you next week.